Welcome to Jude, the podcast. I'm David Jude, the host of this thing. It's where we have conversations with exceptional people, and this is our first show, so what an exciting moment to get this thing launched and off the ground. And our first guest is most deserving to have this spot as our first show, Ashley Banta. Her story is a fascinating tale of another side of life. It's a story of addiction and the craziness that she's seen in her life, and most importantly, her recovery and now what she does to help others. Her story is an unbelievable pursuit into the darkness of society, drugs, the whole drug world, fetishes, lured into prostitution, human trafficking. She was sold. Wait till you hear that story. She was sold into human trafficking, and her incredible escape, no doubt, has saved her life. Most importantly, her complete recovery and how she uses her own story to rescue others trapped in this horrible cycle that's called addiction. Listen, she's a beautiful person. Ashley's a beautiful person. I'm so glad she shared her story with all of us. Stick around and listen to it. If you need help with addiction, or if you know someone who needs help with addiction, check out neverusealone.com. That's neverusealone.com. We'll have a link down below in the show notes. Check out our show sponsors if you would. Shameless Care and DPJ Consulting. Their links will also be below. Enjoy the episode. Thanks for listening. You won't need it. It's all going to be fine.
Yeah.
We had a big time the other day. You'll have a big time today, too.
I agree.
Yeah.
It was fun.
All right. Well, we're off and running. So that's exciting, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You're our first, by the way.
Really?
Yeah, we're breaking the seal here tonight.
Wow.
How about that?
I love popping the cherry.
We're popping it, whether we want it popped or not. It's getting popped right at this very moment. We're in the popping moment. I guess that's what you would call that.
Yeah, that should be the name of this. The popping moment.
Yeah. All right. That we can probably work that out.
Put some graphics on it. Not graphics, but the popping sounds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll figure it out. Yeah. I thought we would have somebody else already done, but it didn't work out. And so you're our first. I think that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I like being the first.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. A lot of good in that.
That's right.
So did you have a good weekend?
Yeah, absolutely. Busy, but it's fall season. Mm-hmm. So we get to do pumpkin patches and things like that. So my niece and nephew, we get to take them.
Yeah.
To do those kinds of things.
You guys always seem like you have a bunch of stuff going on.
Yeah, we're busy.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I guess everybody's busy really though.
Anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, same. I took some pre-workout before this show. I thought that would be pretty exciting to do too. Kind of get me on edge. Yeah.
What do you mean pre-workout?
There's some stuff I always take before I go do some type of workout or whatever that kind of gives you the energy and the heat and the tingles and all that stuff to get you all fired up.
I'm so curious to hear what those entail.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if I should take it or not, but I do. So, yeah.
If it works, right?
It does work. Yeah. So I got the extra heat going on, the extra tingles going on. It's exciting stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what'd you do this weekend?
We went to a Halloween party. We had as a kid-oriented Halloween party.
Oh, okay.
So we had,
My mind was wondering.
We used to have some hell of a Halloween parties and Christmas parties and stuff. And we've been talking here for the last couple of years that we miss doing them and we would like to do them. And then we also talk about, I was like, I don't know if anybody else is ever having any parties or not. We never have any invites, and I'm not asking for invites, but nothing ever comes up, right? And
right.
Probably age, I suppose. But anyway, so somebody invited us out to do a trunk or treat for the kids that they have and friends of ours. And was like, yeah, we need to go. We don't have any reason why we shouldn't go. And so we did. We went and had a big time and enjoyed ourselves, and that was it.
That sounds like fun. It's sad because a lot of people, I remember as a kid, we'd get to go around and trick or treat and have almost every house was decorated and had really good candy. And you'd hear like the adults always doing like their own private parties and kids having separate parties. But now like nobody does anything for Halloween.
Well, it sure doesn't seem like it. I don't know if they do, if they don't, but
yeah.
Anyway,
I don't know about them. I guess old age, right?
Yeah, old age. Yeah. The last time we had one, and I swore I would never have another one. So I thought, one, they're a lot of work.
Yeah.
Right, to host a party.
And money.
I mean, even because, you want to do everything for your guests. You don't want the guests to. And we always took the approach of we don't want you to bring anything because it's hard enough just to get people to show up.
Right. And dress up. Right. So I was like, if you want to bring something to eat, that's fine. But we always catered them. We always had plenty of food. We throw away, 80% of it because nobody eats. Yeah.
But the last time we did it, there was a couple there as costume party, and it was good. And the lady part, the wife part.
I'm going to use that.
I probably wanted to see her lady parts.
Yes,
which is kind of foreshadowing for the story. But she's German, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then on the sidebar, I've always liked Jaeger. And so there's a creature inside of me called Jaeger Dave.
I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah. And so Jaeger Dave is that guy that needs to be kept put up. Yeah. No, don't let him out. As far as I know, I'm nice enough, but what's mine is mine and what's yours is mine type of thing. And so anyway, I told Stacy at the time, I was like, no Jaeger, I'll stay away from it, all good. And that switches over. Well, maybe just one shot. Right. And then of course you can't stop there. So, being the big dummy that I am, I challenged the German lady to, drinking Jaeger to see who could drink the most Jaeger. Right. Yeah. It's pretty idiotic. And I lost.
I was going to say, how'd that turn out?
Oh, yeah. I have no idea.
Did you black out before or what?
I have no idea. Yeah. So we drank a whole lot of Jaeger in a pretty short period of time. And, I guess I'm a bigger guy, it takes a little bit for it to hit. So the logical thing is to keep drinking.
Yeah, you're right.
So I did. I don't know when she and her husband left. I have no idea. And
yeah.
Next thing you know, I was wandering around the party, and it's this particular party. There's like two types of guests, right? You had guests that were there to party, and then you had guests there that are not.
Right.
And, because you have friends, and that's two different types of people, whether you want it to be or not, right?
It is. And you have to cater to two different people.
Yeah. And unfortunately, I hit the Jaeger early, right? So all the people that are there aren't quite ready to meet Jaeger Day.
Right. That's so funny.
Yeah. So at some point, they left, and I have no idea when it is. And some point later, I'm wandering around the house, getting myself into trouble where I should not be getting into trouble, and the wrong people seeing me getting myself into trouble, and trying to find and follow every other hot girl around the party, and what's mine is mine and what's yours is mine, and that carried over to other guests. And finally I got in trouble, and I was like, you know what, I don't know how I had the self-assurance to know, because I shouldn't have, but I was like, you're right. So I went to bed, and let me go lock him up in the bedroom. Yeah. So the next day I was like, hey, Jaeger Dave's got to stay locked up. Jaeger Dave can't get out. He's got to stay put away for a little bit. And I was like, we don't have to have any more parties. Right. I'm good with that, because, once you start,
I know.
I can't take responsibility for him getting in and out of the cage, especially when a German lady wants to have a Jaeger drink off. Right. What am I supposed to do in my own home?
No, I understand that. So my question is, did you talk to these people after the fact? Did you stay friends?
Oh, yeah, we're friends.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Even with, all of them. I think everybody that was there we're still friends with. So, yeah, it all worked out. And, everybody's like, that's just Dave. And
yeah,
I'm like, I don't know if that needs to be Dave or not. That we can find some rum Dave or
right.
bourbon Dave or beer Dave. But Jaeger Dave, I don't know about Jaeger Dave anymore. But
man, I've never heard of Jaeger. I always hear about tequila, but not Jaeger.
Have you ever drank Jaeger?
Yes, I did when I was young.
Isn't it wonderful?
It was.
Yeah, the girl, yes. You're the only person ever that's answered yes to that question. Everybody else it tastes like pure shit.
I mean, it does.
Yeah, yes,
but when you're 18 and you're partying, it's the best shit ever.
Or a little older, I'll say, yes. Yeah. I always liked it when I played music for some reason. I don't know what it was. I guess it was just the I don't know what it was about it. It's not particularly good, but anyway. And we just found some the other day at the house. So I think and that party has to be 7-8 years ago or something like that. It's been a long time.
It was left from that? The Jaeger was left from the party? Wow.
Yeah, so Jaeger doesn't freeze. And so we put it in the deep freeze. And anyway, Stacy brought it up the other day. You should have some Jaeger. And I was like, I think we need to rethink that. Right. I'm on. If you would like Jaeger Dave to come out of the closet, grab it. And I bet you I know where some bottles are. And we dug down the deep freeze and there they were. And I was like, oh, look at that.
Wow. But no friends, right?
No friends.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's just start here.
Yeah. Frost was still in the bottle. And
I bet that was good too. And smooth.
I didn't drink it.
You didn't?
No. Because of course, Stacey's like, I don't know if I want you to drink it or not. And I was like, well, listen, don't get it out because I don't know if you can, I don't know what I'm going to do. I mean, I don't know what, I may run down the street. I mean, who knows what's going to happen. So.
That's funny.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Good stuff.
I'll remember that forever. I will.
Yeah. So that's that. So I didn't have any of that this weekend.
Good choice.
Yeah, it was a good choice.
Yeah. Because we probably wouldn't be here right now.
Yeah, there's a good chance of that too. Right? Yeah, I don't know where I would be, but probably wouldn't make it here. Well, let's get into some of your stuff. If you're all right with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So we met, about 3 months ago? Something like that?
Something like that.
3 or 4 months ago. Close enough for conversation, right?
Correct.
So we met by talking about work and just different things. And you came by to talk for a little bit, which was a lot of fun. We had a big time. And then you stopped by not too long ago to talk again. That was fun. You were talking about some of the craziness that you've gotten into in your youthful years, I suppose. And some of the craziness that you've seen. So you want to jump into some of that?
Yeah, absolutely.
I was thinking the funny story you were telling us the other day was when you worked at the club, and I called him the Nut Cruncher.
Oh, God. So do you want me to get into that now?
Unless you want to do something else.
No, I don't care.
What's on your mind?
Okay.
All right.
Okay, so I started dancing when I was 18.
Yeah.
And, of course, I could only work at Deja Vu.
Yeah.
And so when you work at a bar that has no alcohol, you don't experience the kind of clubs that you would experience if you had. We usually don't get older men in there, right? We get younger, like college guys, but not like 60s and 70-year-old men. It's just a different environment.
Because of the alcohol?
Because of the alcohol, correct, yeah.
Yeah.
So one day this guy comes in and he has a Deja Vu napkin, and so he gets like the $10 dances. And
what's the napkin mean?
So the napkin, he goes around to all the Deja Vus and he gets girls to sign these napkins. Now, what he does, I don't know what he does with them afterwards, but I don't know if he pins them on his wall or even more than that. But
right. Yeah, I'm thinking there's more than that.
Yeah.
And then pins them on his wall.
Yeah.
God.
I know. I didn't think about that. Yeah. You might be right. So these girls was like, oh, that's Stomp on Me. And I was like, Stomp on Me? I'd never seen anything like that in my life. And she was like, yeah, go give him a dance. So I did. And he was like, leave your shoes on. And so he wanted me to stomp on his dick and balls. And I'm confused because I'm like, that shit hurts. Like, that's crazy to me.
And you don't have dick and balls, so.
No.
Yeah, but it hurts.
Can't understand. I can't understand. But at the time, I thought it was crazy. Now I'm just like, it's just whatever. You know, people have different fetishes. But so he would say, you know, stomp on it, whatever, with your shoes. And if you weren't doing it enough or like hard enough, he would say, you know, imagine that's your boyfriend. And then I get really mad because then I had a really bad boyfriend at the time. Yeah. So then, you know, and so it got me more dances, needless to say.
But so you're wearing stripper shoes or whatever?
Yes. I think they were like 5-inch at the time. Yeah. So, and if they break, then he'll buy, like he'll come back in and buy us new shoes or bring them in. But I mean, this whole time, I'm like, I'm scared I'm going to hurt him. But it didn't. I mean, he enjoyed it. And so afterwards, I think he did about 10 dances, which was like $100 at the time. And he would get on. So
you're getting these in place of a dance? I mean, how's that work?
Yes. So usually you would go in and give someone, so like a song would be like 3 minutes. And there's like a 3-second rule. So you give them a dance, so you can only touch them for like 3 seconds. But instead of giving him a dance, he pays the same. You just stomp on him. I love that I can like laugh about that now. You know?
So when you stomp on him, yeah, we got to get into this. So is he sitting in a chair, or is he where's the stomping happen? Like
in the dance chair. So he's just sitting in a chair like you and I. And you just like get on top of him and standing up to the ceiling. And you just you dig your heel into his balls. Like, I thought it was going to pop or whatever. I tell you what, those are sturdy. Because they never popped.
That you know of.
That I know of.
Right.
Yeah.
So you would just stand on it, I guess.
Yeah, and twist and turn and kick it and abuse it.
Yeah.
If you want to get technical.
Yeah, let's get technical. Yeah.
Stretch it out.
Yeah.
I swear.
How do you do that? His balls are in his clothes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
He'd be kicked out for that. Yes.
Yeah. Well.
Through the pants. Yes.
I mean, it's a good question, right? Because who would have thought that you'd be standing up squashing somebody's nuts?
I know. I should have said they called me the Nutcracker.
It is coming up on the Christmas season. It's,
yeah.
It's time to find him. Yeah. Need some extra holiday cash.
Oh.
Mama needs a brand new bag. Right?
Yeah.
All right. So that you stomp on the dude's nuts.
Yeah.
But there was another part to that story.
Yes. So when he's done, and he didn't get off or anything, but whenever he's done, you step outside of the room, in the big room where everybody else is at. He gets on his knees, and with your shoes, you have to go to the other end of the building, and you have to run as fast and hard as you can. And whenever you get up to him, you have to kick him in the balls, and the higher he went up in the air, the more money you got paid. So he would give you, I think it was 2 or 3 tries, I think. And there was this one girl that really pissed him off because she like barely did anything, and he got belligerent and said, "You were wasting my time." But I mean, who doesn't love kicking people in the balls? Yeah. I mean, he asked for it, right?
Yeah, he asked for it, literally.
Yeah, he literally asked for it. And I got paid.
Yeah, and you made some money doing it.
Yeah, I think it was like a $50 tip.
To do that.
Yeah. Yeah, easy money.
Yeah, that's great money.
Yeah.
We should advertise for that. We should put that on Marketplace or something. Stop by the office for a good old kick in the balls.
So are you going to be the one? Are you going to be?
Listen, we can work out a deal. I mean, I'll broker a fee, right? I don't have to be the one to kick them in the balls.
No, I mean, you be the one.
Oh, to be kicked?
To be kicked,
Hell no.
Yeah.
I love what I have.
Right?
You know, protect them. They may pop. Yeah, I'm not taking any chances.
I wouldn't either.
Yeah. That's wild.
It's fetishes.
How often would you come and do this?
I mean, like I said, he went around the United States. So I'm not sure. I think every few months that he would come to Lexington's. Yeah.
So you're thinking about hiring a private investigator, huh? Think knowledge, experience, and trust. Think DPJ Consulting. Listen, we're the folks you want on your team. Whether it's a criminal matter, corporate, or administrative issue, or maybe something more personal, you need to make the right choice for you. Our house of expertise at DPJ Consulting can help you with investigations, and that could mean a whole lot of different things. Pre-employment background checks, personal VIP security, and so much more. Check us out at dpjconsulting.com. Follow us on all of our social media platforms, or give us a call at 855-TEAM-DPJ. That's 855-TEAM-DPJ. Give us a call. It costs nothing to talk. It costs you everything if we don't. So what did this dude look like? I mean, you don't have to... I mean, average looking dude.
Just like your average grandpa. You know, like khaki pants and a buttoned up shirt that was tucked in, a little brown jacket, glasses, gray hair.
Yeah.
Yeah, like your average grandpa.
Wow. Who would have known? Did you ever find out what he did for a living?
No. At that time, I didn't understand. I was just making money. I didn't know to like ask people about their feelings or what they were doing.
Hey, Gramps.
I was 18, you know?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you don't care about the story.
Exactly.
Yeah. So the $50 would get you like 3 kicks?
Yes. I mean, not everybody made the $50.
Right. But you have a good punter's foot. You have a good kicker foot, evidently.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, especially I grew up around boys, men, my whole life, you know?
Yeah.
Wrestling.
Yeah. Yeah, that's wild.
I know.
Yeah, it's hard to follow that up, you know?
Well, I think I can.
All right, let's jump into what other crazy shit you see there. Or anywhere, really.
Okay.
I know we got a lot to talk about, but...
I know.
Yeah.
Well, I mean... Goodness. Okay, so let's just start here. So there's a company that I used to work for. It's legitimate. It is still going on today. And so you would get like a W-9, and the way in was you had to know a girl. Like, they don't advertise or anything. And again, I had no idea that there was websites like this. I had no idea that people had fetishes like this. But I was like, it's easy money. I watched my friend do it for a long time. And so a couple of the things when I was first introduced, you just like, so foot fetishes, right? Like a lot of people do have foot fetishes, whether it's sexual or they just like feet. But it gets more interesting when you're, okay. So like being held down, so tied down and tickled.
Yeah. For
like 20 minutes. I broke the bed because I hate being tickled. Yeah. And I told him I was not buying him another one. I warned him before we even did it. But tickle fetishes, goldfish fetishes. Yeah. I mean,
I don't know this one.
Okay, so putting a goldfish in and out of your mouth is a fetish. Now, I would put it in my mouth, but I would take it out. I don't know. That's all I know. So I would just put a fish inside my mouth and take it out.
So let's back up a second. So this is a fetish site or something like.
Yes. So
this isn't a live performance.
No, God, no. God.
You say it like that's awful. You know, like, yeah. Sticking like a goldfish in and out of my mouth, not bad enough. But live? Oh, God,
that's
no.
That's like Saw or something. Yeah.
Let's just stick to the normal stuff of putting goldfish in and out of my mouth.
Yeah. So like the way that it's ran is people go to this website. So there was a couple that was for solely feet fetish, but then there was 2 of them that was for like extra stuff. And it really didn't entail a certain category. It was really whatever they asked. So anybody around the world could submit an email and say they wanted a video. Now they pay for a one price, but then that video in turn turns around and sells it to whoever they want to sell it to. And so that's how it's marketed. And so a lot of guys, they want things specific. So say for instance, they want your feet a certain color, like your toes painted a certain color, your fingernails, certain outfits, stockings. I mean, down to the underwear, the bra, like the ties in your hair, the way that your hair has to be. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, not literally crazy, but it just blows your mind to think. Like, anyways, just I feel like I'm going down a rabbit hole. But
yeah. So would you know that before you showed up at this place, or would you like show up and because you couldn't know, you'd have to know what fetish you had for the given moment before you could then get into whatever costume or outfit that you needed to get into. So
the owner would know beforehand. Now, it was kind of like a free-for-all, whoever showed up that day. I mean, he'd schedule people, but whoever showed up that day, he'd let you pick whatever you wanted. But people could specifically, like, nobody wanted to do the stuff that I did. I just care about money, right?
There's the rabbit hole we're about to go down.
Okay. Okay. I'll admit that. Yeah. But unless they specifically requested you. And so, but still, you didn't know until you got there. And then he'd be like, oh, okay, so you're doing A, B, C, D, E, F. And I'll just like, oh, cool. Now, obviously, he'd ask me if I was comfortable with it, but I usually were. So crickets, stepping on crickets.
Yeah.
So those virtual reality glasses or whatever, those were quite new when we, there at the end that I was doing these videos. And so he would lay out a paper all over the kitchen, and then he would just lay out all these crickets that he got at the store earlier that day. And you would do a POV, a point of view, and you would have to stomp on them slowly with the back of your foot, the front of your foot. I mean, and I would do that for like 20 minutes.
Shoes on, shoes off?
Both.
Yeah.
Both. Yeah. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff.
So somebody has this website place has somehow marketed themselves to be this fetishmart.com or whatever.
Yes.
And so whoever out there in the world has found this place, they would log on, whatever they do, and then say, this is the fetish that I want to see.
Yes.
That guy would broker out a deal and then hire you or whomever to come in and complete the fetish.
Right. But there's also rules and regulations that the guys have to go to, and they all have to be approved.
The fetishes?
Yes. So we couldn't do just anything that they asked. And nothing sexual. But in a way, it was sexual. you know?
I think it all is, right? I think a fetish at its core is sexual to a degree.
Yeah. The guy himself, he started it, him and his wife actually, and his name's David.
Yes. There's something to that.
There is. So he has a foot fetish. And I guess his wife, with her being to say, okay, well, I'm okay with that, was for him to do a website and have these girls do it. Now he couldn't do anything, but he could film it, see the videos, do all that kind of stuff. So he started a company, and if you just go online and look up whatever kind of fetishes, those sites will come on. You'll see those. But the girls don't go by real names.
Sure.
You have stage names just like you would.
You mean like Sapphire from Fort Lauderdale is not really Sapphire from Fort Lauderdale?
It's probably Tanya.
Yeah. You're bursting my bubble. Yeah. I'd be the guy so what's Fort Lauderdale like?
Right.
Huh?
Aren't you from great palm trees? Something obvious. Wow.
Yeah. What's the craziest fetish then that you did? What's the purpose of the goldfish? Let's talk a minute about sex. Sex is part of life. It's beautiful and it's essential to living a great life. Enter my friends at Shameless Care, who have created something cool for your personal health care. Shameless Care offers a variety of products you may be interested in. ED treatments, STI treatments, STD testing. So how does it work? Well, that's the easy part. You go to shamelesscare.com, you choose the product you're interested in, you complete an online questionnaire, which is reviewed by a medical doctor, by the way. Pay for the product, and in a couple of days, discreet packaging arrives right to your doorstep. Their customer service is second to none. They're always responsive, and they care. Listen, Ashley's the best. Tell her I said hello. They're a small business ran by people like you and me, and they're incredible. The best part? We can save you some money. Click on the link in the show notes. Use the code JUDE at checkout. It's JUDE. And save $30 on your first purchase. That's not bad, huh? Visit our website to learn more. Shamelesscare.com. And don't forget the promo code JUDE.
I don't know. I just did one of them. I just did it and moved on.
Yeah.
I don't know. I never thought about it.
You're just hustling.
Yeah, just hustling.
Yeah.
Exactly. The craziest fetish I've ever done. I was chloroformed.
Yeah?
Yeah.
As part of the fetish?
Yeah. So basically, I had to go outside and knock on the door because in this house, they call it a business. There was different setups, different living rooms, things like that. And so one of the scenes was I had to go outside, knock on the door, and there was a girl that was in there waiting behind the curtain. And apparently I had took her man or something. Mind you, there's no guys that's allowed here. And I would walk in and she would chloroform me and pass out and do foot fetish videos on me, like licking my feet or pulling stockings off. Just anything could happen. Yeah.
And that's marketed as non-sexual.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
It is actually. Yeah.
It's like the consensual non-consent stuff that's out there, I guess.
Yeah.
Like rape videos. And I mean, that's a fetish, right?
Yeah, it is.
To people engage in consent, non-consent, or however you say it, consensual non-consent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know that there at the end, and that's one of the main reasons why I left was you weren't, so I guess he had met some people that had a lot of money, say Wall Street, and probably black market, but he would do private videos that he wouldn't post on the website where they would actually have sex and girl on girl, or this is going to gross you out, but
maybe.
Okay. So you ever seen Two Girls in a Cup?
Yes.
Okay.
I was going to ask you about that. Yeah.
Yeah. So this girl, and it's so sad. She only got paid $2,500 to do it, but she had to eat real live shit coming out of the butt at that very time. And I was like, yeah, I'm out. I'm done.
I was going to ask if you were the pitcher or the catcher.
No, I'm neither.
Yeah.
Neither.
I was going to ask you about Two Girls in a Cup, that if it is this place I guess that would be one of the fetishes, right? That was a big deal a few years ago.
Yeah,
when that video came out. So I would imagine if you have a fetishmart.com, I'm making that website up, but
it's a good one.
yeah, it is a good one. We should grab it real quick.
Yeah.
Especially for this hits the air. We should grab that site.
Hurry up and LLC that bitch.
Yeah. If you only knew how close you were to running that business for me. I'll finance it if I can get somebody to run it.
Yeah, I'm headmistress.
Call yourself what you want.
Miss CEO headmistress.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Okay, back to what?
Yeah, I don't know what we're talking about, but yeah. Two Girls in a Cup. So I imagine that would be pretty popular. I would think that would be an often requested thing. I mean, you may not know, but there's obviously people willing to do it.
Yeah. I mean, especially with people that are actively using and on drugs, they'll do anything,
Well, that's probably a good segue, right? Is what would cause somebody to participate in that? So, I mean, I guess these girls would show up at that house, right? They don't know what they're getting into that day.
Right.
And so this dude would say, hey, I've got an opportunity for eat some shit out of this girl's ass.
Right.
You in?
Yeah. And my friend who introduced me was the one who did it.
Wow.
She was the one that did it.
Seems like there'd take some pre-planning for that, right? Because the other girl would have to be able to provide her part.
I mean, all she had to do was shit.
Yeah, but if it was me, I would have shat before I went to that house.
Well,
I try not to show up too many places like, hey, how are you?
Yeah.
I need to shit real quick. Can I go over here and do that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. I know the way that it went down, this girl actually said that she can poop on site. Like,
at a girl.
Yeah. You said, like, it was crazy. So she did. Like, she pooped and then she ate it. And I was just like, it gets to a point where you have girls that get so strung out that they can't dance anymore. They get kicked out of the clubs or they get whatever it may be. And so they resort, because in their minds, being one of those people it's a temporary thing.
Yeah.
And then I can go get high and forget about it. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that makes sense.
So.
And it provides, it's an end to the means, or means to an end, I guess is the saying, right?
Right.
It's a way to make some quick cash and feel that addiction another day.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Makes sense. Sad, but it makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. All about making the money and doing your hustles, but not at the bigger cost.
Right. Yeah. And not even realizing what kind of trauma one day you might wake up to,
Yeah. Do you still know that person? You still friends with that person?
No.
No.
Mm-mm.
Yeah. I'm just curious.
Yeah.
So you battled with addiction.
I did.
Right? You okay to talk about some of that?
Yeah. I would love to.
Let's do it. Let's start with your addiction. What was it?
So it was opiates. So I lived in California when I was 18. And the first time I ever experienced it. Okay, let's go. So I smoked pot once when I was like 16. And I remember for the first time, it's the first thing I ever did. And I remember like getting on my knees and barking like a dog. And I was like, this shit's not for me. And so I ended up of pot. Yeah. I don't know what I was thinking. I don't know.
I didn't expect that transition.
Listen, I had no idea. It was crazy. Me and another girl did too.
Huh.
Yeah, it was crazy. So I was like, yeah, that's not for me. I moved to California and they actually had like really good ecstasy and cocaine. And I did dabble into that a little bit here and there, but it wasn't like I formed an addiction per se. I could put it down.
Yeah.
Mind you, I really didn't understand what addiction was. I hadn't seen it really. Growing up, I did, but I didn't know it was called addiction or, you had a problem. I just knew mom and dad were on drugs. So, coming back to Kentucky, I got on pills. Mm. And whenever the whole pill mill that was around, right?
Right.
And that's how I got involved. I didn't go to Florida, but I got rid of the pills that came back from Florida. And so surely, but slowly I ended up getting on those. And
when you say getting rid of them, you were helping to move them?
Yeah, I was helping moving them, like in the clubs and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I would make like $10 off one,
Off one pill?
Off one pill. Yeah.
And how many would you move in a night?
40, 50.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Because then people would come in and buy them.
Right.
Because they told this person and that person,
So that's a huge chunk of change. I mean, it's $400 or $500 just in moving the pills every night, in addition to whatever you made as a dancer, right?
Right.
So you're making some pretty good coin.
Yeah. And it kept me from going down a different road that I ended up going down later,
Okay.
I mean, it definitely helped, but I didn't understand the consequences of, obviously it was the first time I'd ever seen that or done that before. And that's how a lot of people get caught up in that. They don't understand.
Sure.
They just think it's quick money and you don't think about the bigger picture.
Well, which is that's exactly what whoever's behind it would want, right?
Right.
They don't want you asking why. They don't want you asking, what am I doing, or how am I doing it, or what's the consequence of this action? Nobody cares. They just want you to move the product. Mm-hmm. So how did the club respond to that?
Most of the clubs were in cahoots with it. I mean, I did get kicked out a couple of them for doing that, but they always let me come back. And I knew that, you know what I mean? So, but like a lot of the bouncers would help me push them or send their people in. So it was pretty easy. Yeah, no doubt. Yeah. No doubt. It's a relatively safe environment. Absolutely. To move that. It's controlled, right? Controlled environment. And it's not as if law enforcement's just patrolling or coming in or whatever else. I mean, if law enforcement comes into a club, then it's like a big beaming, bright, flashing neon sign when the popos show up, right? Right. And so it's to that point, it's pretty easy to control the fact that you can set that aside for 10 minutes or however long that they happen to be in there. Yeah. Yeah. And so I guess the clubs would take a cut of that, or they would want their share of the profits. I mean, yeah, sometimes. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I was never honest with them, right? Right. I never told them. Yeah. I only moved 3 pills tonight. This was a horribly slow night. I don't have any this week. Yeah. You just feed them breadcrumbs. That's right. Listen, you want more money? You get the bouncer to give me more people. That's how this works. Blame him. The bastard didn't bring anybody in here. I can't sell them if they're not bringing them in here. You're not managing this place right. You're not managing it. That's right. Brother. Step it up, buddy. All right. Keep going then. So coming off the pills, I just stopped. I found out I was pregnant. And so I just laid down in the basement and slept. I had no idea I was going to go through DTs. And matter of fact, I never understood that I did until later on in life. So I felt like I just had the flu. So usually first time people that go through withdrawals, it's really not that bad. You can usually sleep it off. But the more you do it, the worse it gets. And so eventually getting back on that, then the pill mill stopped. Getting back on, opiates, which was like Perk 30s, Perk 15s. I was getting ready to ask. And then, of course, you throw in Xanax bars that were coming with them. That's a whole nother scenario and hell to bring on with it. But going from Percocet, then when you take something away, it makes it worse, right? And so that's when Kentucky cracked down and said there's no more. All the shops in Florida got shut down. People were going to prison. And so this girl asked me, she was like, hey, I know where to get some heroin. I was like, what's heroin? I'd never heard about it. And she's like, yeah, well, it's just like opiates, or it's just like Perk 30s, but it's stronger and it's cheaper. And I was like, well, shit, sign me up. Yeah, right. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. At the end of it, we were paying like $50 a pop on a Perk 30. Which is very expensive. Yeah. Which is what happened, with the Oxycontins before all that happened. Mm-hmm. So I get on heroin and I wasn't particularly happy with it, but it's like another monster, you know? It's stronger. It doesn't last longer. Most of the time you had to shoot it with syringes, which is something I didn't like, but you have to do what you got to do. Yeah. So you ended up there. I mean, that's a completely different monster than the opiates. Yes. Yeah. Do you care to talk about how it affected you? No, I don't care. I mean, so what's the high off of Percocet? What's the high look like there? What did it do to you? What did it mean to you? So basically, it's, as everybody knows, it's for pain, right? Mm-hmm. And so, but when you have someone who's got a lot of trauma in their life and a lot of shit that's been bottled inside, whether it's from a long time or a death of a child or just losing your kids, social services, or whatever it may be, when you take something to mask, and that's with anything, right? Mm-hmm. So you take something to mask feeling, to not feel a certain way, that it gives you like an euphoric high. Like you're no longer in pain. You don't think about, it like numbs you. Basically, it lets go of the stress that you're carrying. Yeah, absolutely. And it gives you like energy and you feel good. You feel like Hulk.
Yeah.
At first, it doesn't last long, but it makes you feel invincible.
Yeah. And then what was it like?
I mean, they called me Sleeping Beauty.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just because heroin because it's so much stronger, it's mixed with anything and everything. You never know what it's mixed with, but it's like taking, I'm going to say in one shot, like 5 perk 30s, so you take it, you nod off, like you're not coherent. Yes, it feels great, but it only lasts like 3 days. So if you start taking heroin and then for 3 or 4 days, you're going to wake up like very, very, very sick. And from that moment, you have to have it or you feel like you're going to die.
So it's a one-hit thing. As soon as you do that first hit, you got to have it.
Yes.
But you didn't feel that way with the perks.
No, there's just a whole nother level when it comes to heroin, just because, but I mean, they put a lot of stuff in the heroin that makes it even more addictive. We've seen a lot of things, over the years. So like ketamine, and they have this stuff that literally eats your skin. But I ended up liking fentanyl, and that was actually scary. And I'm lucky at the end of my addiction, I got off fentanyl, but I always took it out. So getting on heroin. So, okay, let's go back. So whenever I started perk 30s, I wasn't doing bad things to get it, right? So I was still maintaining. I still had a place to live. I still had a family. I was still doing normal things because it wasn't bad for me. Now, when you get on heroin, guess what happens? You're introduced to the thug life, per se. It's just, you're introduced to the drug life, the street life. Something I'd never been introduced to before. And so you have quote unquote D-boys or people that come from out of state, and they utilize people in Kentucky because Kentucky is like one of the worst opiate states in the United States, right? But once you get involved in that kind of life, you put yourself at much risk, a lot more risk than you would. And so that's whenever I started losing everything.
So you put yourself at more risk by when you jump into the heroin as opposed to moving the Percocet.
Right. Yes.
There's a whole different level, you're saying.
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
Yeah.
So to me, I would look at it to say you're already in the thug life if you're moving the pills through there, but you're saying completely different ballgame. Yeah.
So when I was on perk 30s, it wasn't like I progressed needing more and more quickly, opposed to heroin. But perk 30s, you were able to maintain a life. You still didn't you didn't have to do more and more or whatever. Like I was on a same dose for like 2 years. So again, being able to maintain, but able to live a life, and that gave you motivation. But heroin does the complete opposite. Like you always have to have more and more because it's so potent. It leaves your body so quickly, on top of shooting up with syringes. That makes it even, because it hits you a lot faster, but a lot stronger. So like if you snorted something, it would take 20 minutes to kick in. You swallowed 45 minutes, give or take. But shooting up, you feel it instantly, which makes you go into worse detox. But also heroin has a bunch of different stuff in it. But fentanyl was created for horse tranquilizers, right? And when people are in surgery or things like that, that's what it was meant for. It wasn't to mass market it to use to get high off of.
So when you said that the drug trade, the streets are taking advantage or using people in Kentucky, what do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, Kentucky's been targeted ever since the coal mines shut down, right? Oxycontin. And so that made Kentucky alone one of the states that has like the highest overdose rates or has the highest opiate rates with doctors. And so Kentucky is also on the line. So I can't remember what it's called, but it's called the line that goes from like Florida all the way up to like Ohio. But so people from like Detroit or whatever would come to Kentucky. And because a lot of people were so already addicted, they didn't have to go out and say, hey, try this on the street like they would anywhere else, because they already know what it's about. But Kentucky, a lot of people hadn't experienced heroin like that. Yes, it's always been here.
Right.
But it wasn't until 10 years ago it hadn't hit hard.
I see.
Yeah. Which people were already addicted and the pill mill ran out. And that's whenever they took their opportunity. Well, here's this. And at that point, people would do anything at that,
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm explaining that.
Well, you are. I mean, I'm sure, and I'm asking out of a part of, it's a world I don't really know.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I mean, I know pieces of it, but I don't know it from your perspective and what you've lived. But,
right.
So when you're saying they're taking advantage of people, I mean, I guess that's really a full circle comment, right? They need people to move product.
Oh, okay. I understand what you're saying now.
Need people to use the product.
Yes. Yes.
And then I'm sure there's a human element to using people within that as well, right?
Yes. So I'm glad that you brought that up. So I would meet somebody that would say, hey, you want to try this? And that's how they would draw you in. That's how I got connected with them. Hey, will you try this? They would either come to clubs or you would meet them at a gas station. They like stand in at gas stations. And so they would ask you to try it. You try it. And they're like, hey, I have some back here. And then they get in good with you, so to speak. And then they would have you. So I ended up driving, like being a driver, right? So I was only told that I would drive these guys to Atlanta and then back to Ohio. And I would get paid like $500 and I'd be back in a day and a half. And I was like, dang, that's easy money. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I don't want to know any details, but it's my car, my tags. If I get pulled over, it's on me, right? But they knew how to pick you. So you couldn't have a warrant, things like that. They were smart. And so you start out by doing that. And while you're on the road, they give you drugs. So you don't have to have money or use that money to buy the heroin, because they're going to feed you full of heroin anyways to make you comply. Mm-hmm. And then you feel obligated, right? So then you feel like you owe them something. You know what I mean? And then it just goes into more and more. They make you do things, hold it over your heads. So say, for instance, these guys got popped. They did 7 years. They got raided. They did 7 years. I think one of them just recently got out, but I had to go to court. So the one guy that didn't get hit, he actually asked me to go to court, actually told me I was going to go to court, and I feared him. They have guns. And they use that. They use it as a fear tactic, right?
Yeah, so let's be clear about that, right? Because it's not that they're like, hey, Ash, what are you doing next Tuesday? Think you could come over to court maybe? And
No.
So they're not asking you to show up for court. Let's dig into that just a piece. I mean, you're going to court and you're going to tell a certain story.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And they're built on fear.
Yes.
You're going to go tell that story.
Yeah. They know where you live.
Yeah.
And on top that, the worst thing about it is where they live. You know where they get the drugs. You know where they go to like different states. You know a lot. And so to you, you're a throwaway. So if you don't do something for them, then your life is in danger, whether they're going to kill you, get rid of you, or whatever. And I know that I'm not trying to be like so literal, but that's really how it is. And so you stay in fear of these people, and they use that. So one day he called me and he was like, hey, you're going to go to court. You're going to tell them, because he didn't live in the state. You're going to tell the judge, I think it was like $100,000 bond. And you're going to tell the judge that you're his girlfriend and that blah, blah, blah. And then I'm going to give you the bond money. You're going to pay it. I'll wait outside. And I literally stood up, and the judge bought it and dropped his bond at 10 grand. I went down there and paid 10 cash. Mind you, I didn't even care at this point. I was just trying to hurry up and do it and get out. But I'm sure it looks suspicious. So, and then after that, they don't want no part of you, But, and literally they can call you up years later Like, that's something I have experienced. Mm-hmm. Even if you think that you've lost contact with them, they know how to find you. And so I had one call me up, like, I think it was like 3 or 4 years later, and say, hey, I need you to do this, and you're going to do it. And here's why. I got your phone number. I know what hotel you're staying at. So, I mean, these people are very smart.
Mm-hmm. You know, and you said the judge bought it, right?
Yes.
But, you know, if you think about the criminal justice system, you had to show up at court and, mm-hmm. and you basically testified to the fact, whatever it is that you testified to. And, you know, they're not stupid either.
Right.
I mean, they know who's in court, the prosecutor and the judges, well, the whole system.
Right.
They know who's in there. Right.
Yeah.
And they know your role in that as well.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's kind of interesting to say they bought it, but at the same time, you're the one perjuring yourself. You're the one testifying to it. At the end of the day, you put up the cash.
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah. I mean,
wow.
Yeah. It's
crazy stuff.
It's crazy stuff. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I never thought about that.
I mean, so what was your, you know, attraction there? Because now, as we sit here now, you can, mm-hmm. and I think people that are listening to this would say, why would you do that? That's the craziest stuff. But what was your attraction to? What was your lure to it? How did you, is it just the chase for more drugs?
Well, I mean, it's addictive.
Sure.
Right. So you have to, when you're addicted, you have to have it, but you also want more because you go through a lot of trauma in the process. And so anytime you try to get clean and come off of it, all of that trauma hits you all at one time, and then you can't handle it. So you either see a lot of suicides or not accidental overdoses, but truly overdoses. Mm-hmm. And I've tried that multiple times, but my attraction to it was dancing for so long. And it got to a point where I didn't have a life. That's all I knew. And so in order to do that every single day, I had to be high, but then I had to make money to do it. And so it was just, I mean, it's just like this vicious cycle, right? You have to be high to do it, and then you have to do it to make the money to get high. You know, like that's just, it's not attractive at all. Like I didn't want it for a long time.
Right.
It's something that you have to have. You physically feel like you're going to die without it.
So you said these guys would be at gas stations and stuff. I mean,
mm-hmm.
if we were to go out and drive the roads now, because they're still there. They're still at the gas stations.
Oh, yeah. I can point them out.
I was going to say, can you see them?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
They probably stand out to you like, again, like that flashing neon mm-hmm. sign or whatever, don't they?
Even in cars. If I see a car go by, I can tell.
Yeah.
It's so crazy. I'm like, it's so crazy. There was one, I didn't mean to like interrupt you, but so there was one time that my dealer was out of town going up north to get dope, and I needed something. And so I was like, take me to Takes Creek. And I was like, take me to Armstrong Mill. I promise you I'll find something. Sure enough, I had someone take me through there, and I hopped out and I walked in a certain area, and I was like, nope, yes. And found it. I mean, it's that easy.
Once you know the signs, you know what you're looking
mm-hmm.
for. So just something about that yes house that you knew this is the place to go to.
Right.
And you were right.
Or that person walking down the street.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You also mentioned that these guys know how to pick you.
Mm-hmm.
So what's that criteria look like?
Well, I mean, females in general, but they don't like, so a lot of girls from the clubs, that's one thing. But also they have girls that go out and hunt for these girls. So they'll pretend, that's one way to do it. They'll pretend to be your friend, go in the clubs, get a job there, whatever, or come in, give you like samples. But then they want to know, like, have you been raped, or, have you lost your kids? Like, they try to pick people that doesn't have hardly anything to lose. Do you have a vehicle? If you don't have a vehicle, more than likely, like, you don't have shit, right? And I didn't have one for the longest time. So, I mean, there's a lot of different ways they can pick you out. So
you're saying they're looking for you to be extra vulnerable, or the opposite of that?
I would say both. You know what I mean? So, I mean, regardless, there's ways that they can find out to get you in with them. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. The fentanyl, have you seen the videos of I think it's Kensington Street on Philadelphia.
No.
It's fascinating stuff. I'll watch a lot of those videos. They're hard to watch, right? Because it's really just highlighting the zombiness of of addicts. This one particular street, which by the way was the street that Rocky lived on in Rocky 1. If you want some useless movie trivia for yourself somewhere down the road, he lived at the corner of Kensington and something. And Kensington is kind of the stereotypical, I guess, drug piece. And maybe she'll find that as here we go.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Have you seen any of these videos?
I have.
Yeah. So is this fentanyl that they're using?
I'm going to say yes and no. It might have it in it, but that is not fentanyl. Mm-mm.
Well, maybe the video will come up.
Okay.
Right now it's just a big black screen with a circle on it. So the videos, and we'll see it here in a second. Whatever these people are using, they just literally stop right there. Right. And so this whole avenue, we'll watch it as we're going through. This whole avenue will be, just that, as they, like there, you can see whatever they do, they use, they just stop. Yeah.
I don't think that's fentanyl.
What do you think that is?
So that's a thing called xylazine. That's one of them. There's also,
like, see those dudes there? They just freeze in time.
So xylazine is a drug. It's also like fentanyl, but it's a synthetic drug, right? So they give it to horses to put them down, or surgery, things like that. And so what it does is whenever you take it, it puts you in a 3 to 5 day paralysis where it literally makes you paralyzed. You could either be awake or not, but that's why they're calling it like the zombie drug. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm sure it's been around for a long time. I'm not sure, 2 years. Yes. Yep. Mm-hmm. Okay. So yes, that, but Kentucky is just now getting hit with it a lot. About 6 months ago, you didn't hear of a case in, like, say, Bourbon County or whatever. Now you're hearing it. And so it acts as, it feels like an opiate, but very strong, but it eats your skin from the inside out, and it puts you in a zombie paralysis. Yeah.
Yeah. There's some of those videos you're talking about eating the skin. Mm-hmm. There's some of those videos that's what it's showing, right?
Oh, on those videos?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so I'll watch 3 or 4 of these where, what would you call them? Traveling YouTubers,
right?
Social media guys.
Yeah.
It's obviously a hot place to go to because the content is so raw, right? I mean, you're just walking up and down in the middle of this place where there's just, I guess, hundreds of people that are in that stage. And so some of these guys will strike up conversations, right, with neighbors, whatever else. And 1 or 2 particular ones I saw, you could just see the infection and the wounds and whatever else. It's pretty horrible looking, really.
It is.
Yeah.
And it's really sad because you never know if it's going to be in that, right? So I know that Louisville, it's the first that I've ever seen it. They actually have xylazine test strips, just like fentanyl test strips.
Okay.
And so they can test it to see if it has xylazine in it. But it's very dangerous, especially if it's not taken care of. And when you go into like a paralysis, the reason why they call it zombie is because it stops you in your track and it makes you fold over. But more importantly, you like bite people. It makes you literally act like a zombie, but you're not conscious. It's like a shell of you, but you're not conscious. You don't remember doing it.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that. Do these people that are taking this, do they know what's happening to them at that moment?
No.
Wow.
I don't think so. I mean, how could you? I mean, you see people, they think they're getting high. But if you were to show them that maybe down the line, but maybe at that point, they're just so out of their mind that they don't even comprehend it or even care at that point.
Well, I mean, drugs is such a huge world, right? There's anesthesia type stuff that, will render you functionless. Is that the right word?
Yes.
Functionless?
Yeah.
But you're still cognizant to the world that's going on around you. So, I'm just curious if they know. I mean, can they snap out of it? Could somebody walk up to them and say, "Hey, David, wake up"?
No. It depends on the doses in each body. So you never know. Nobody knows what kind of dose that they have. But people can also sell it too. So they can say, oh, this has this is like fentanyl or whatever it may be. There's car fentanyl and they're doing it. And so this whole time they think that they're doing car fentanyl. So I'll give you an example. You know, I told you earlier they called me Sleeping Beauty. I would literally be sitting next to a guy and he would buy me a drink and I would wake up an hour later and had no idea, like the drink's gone. I'm like, where'd he go? He's just here. Had no idea I was passed out. And I done fell on the floor and got back up and counted my money and my money's everywhere. Had no clue. Wow.
You had to be victimized.
Absolutely.
Multiple times.
Oh, yeah.
In all this, right?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it seems like there would have to be a purpose for trying to do that to you or to get you to that state, right?
Yeah.
So you had to have been victimized several times throughout.
I did. Process. Yes, I was.
Yeah.
And a lot of different aspects.
Yeah. You had mentioned at one point, a kidnapping or something like that? So you were kidnapped?
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
So it was actually a girl that I went to rehab with. I was her mentor and she was my she was my coordinator underneath me. So we developed a friendship and then years later I run into her and she's like, oh, hey, you can always tell when I'm high, right? I look a certain way. And she knew that. And so she was like, hey, I got really good stuff. And her brother, she turned me on to her brother who sold dope. And so I started using him. And this is how she picked me. And so I was using him every day to go from Louisville to Indiana. A lot of people won't cross that bridge just because of Indiana's laws. And so I formed a friendship with him. He lured my walls that I built with people, and I was able to trust him and think that he was really my friend. And then he would invite me over, and then she would feed me free dope. And the next thing I know, she tells me I never did Backpage willingly. Now, I don't know if anybody knows, or a lot of people know what Backpage are, but there's some people that don't. And it's basically, it was a prostitution site. You can just put a picture of you and say, what you do, and people would private message you and you can go meet them in a hotel. A quick one night stand, basically. That's actually a nice way to put it. So, right? That's a nice way to put it. And so she had actually took pictures of me. And I had no idea this was going on. I thought she was like, you need a profile. And because I was seeing clients outside of the club. And so that's how she got pictures of me. So she posted them on the website and put a name on there for me. And then she's like, hey, I'm going to go put you in this hotel. And she was like, I'll bring you heroin and crack to keep you up every day. And these guys, I'll set it up so I'll have the guys come in and out, and then you just give me a cut. And I was like, I'm cool with it. So, and that's what happened. And then for a week, it just got to a point where I was just like, it was just one after another. And it was actually not a week. It was I don't know, maybe a day where I was like, this is crazy. I'd never experienced anything like that before. A couple of them were aggressive. A couple of them had a gun. One of them was physically violent with me. And I was like, I'm not doing this. And that's whenever she would give me more to where I'd just be out of it. Basically allowed myself to get raped. But I felt like I was unconscious for a lot of that. And it was one day I snapped out of it and I went in survival mode and tried to escape. And then apparently she had made $10,000 that week. I wasn't even aware. I don't even remember most of that week. And all of a sudden this truck, a U-Haul, pulls up and opens the back door, and she kidnaps me, ties me down, and kidnaps me. Mind you, this whole week there was a guy that sat outside of the room every day, all day, and throws me in the back of the van. And there was girls in the van too, and they were in literal cages. They were peeing and pooping on pads. There was a little water bowl, but that was it. And they were naked.
In this U-Haul truck. Or something like that.
So, yeah, a box truck.
Yeah, a box truck. Yeah. So, let's fill in some of the gaps before we get there. So, in essence, you got pimped out. She became your pimp, basically.
Yep. And I wasn't aware.
Through addiction, she says, hey, we're going to set up this Backpage account and I'm going to do all these things for you, which puts you up in the room. But in other words, she keeps you drugged up and just runs men through that hotel room.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the guy's job is to keep you from leaving.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
How many guys would come through there? What's that look? Not for you. I'm not asking for you particular. I'm just saying in that environment in a normal day.
Well,
is the expectation to turn tricks 24 hours a day?
No. Now, I know a lot of girls would do it like after work for a couple hours. They'd say, oh, I'm going to do this. Because I did know girls that did it. But they could do like a couple of guys in a couple hours. And it was just an extra couple $100 or whatever. Some people charged more or less, whatever. But with me, yes, it was 24/7. Like it never stopped. So can I say that it was easy, 20 people a day? I would say yes, absolutely. But I don't remember a lot. Right. I just knew that it was all day long. I would literally have to comply. I would have I would have bath water ready. So that way, by the time that they were done, I'd go in there, take a bath, and then someone would be knocking on my door. And if I didn't open the door, then the guy would open the door for me.
Yeah. Wow.
Like the bouncer person.
Yeah.
If you want to call it.
Yeah. The security.
Yeah. Security guy.
The security guy. Yeah.
Going in, sir.
I don't mean to be laughing at that. It's not funny, but
no.
Yeah. Thanks for shopping here or whatever
You're
else.
Right.
And, yeah. The room's ready for you now. The concierge. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So at some point they're going to relocate you. I mean, why the box truck?
So the reason why they got the box truck is a guy out of Pittsburgh. I guess she knew somebody on that market. It's the black market. She sold me for like a price, and then she got permanent money. She didn't have to deal with it anymore. And then he would take me to Pittsburgh and make me do that, I guess, for the rest of my life. I don't know.
I mean, did that happen?
I escaped.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you didn't make the trip to Pittsburgh?
No, I made it halfway.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you know how much she sold you for?
I think $50,000.
Wow.
Yeah. So I guess there's actually like guys that are on the black market that says, if you have a girl that can make this much, we'll pay this amount in crypto. And then that way it's untraceable. And that person makes good money, which encourages a lot of people to do that.
You mean like somebody like you would make good money? Is that what you mean? Or
like the people that are like using these girls.
Yeah.
And pimping these girls out. No, we wouldn't make anything.
So you didn't make any money?
No, I didn't make any money at all. No. But, and then that would encourage people that are like low ballers selling $100 here and there. Here they have $50,000 in their pocket because they can pimp this girl out, and that's how that started. I mean, it was pretty big in Louisville for a while.
Wow. So they roll up to where you're at. So you've been sold.
Yes.
There's a transaction that happened somewhere. So a dude in Pittsburgh paid pimp lady $50,000 for you.
Yes.
For your actual person.
Yes.
And now you're going to get loaded up in this box truck. And so when the box truck opens up, that's where you see these girls in cages and whatever else. How many's in there? How many girls?
3 or 4.
3 or 4.
And I thought one of them was dead, to be honest.
Yeah. And where are they from? Do you know?
2 of them didn't even speak English. I don't know if I think they were Chinese, but they didn't even speak English. And they were like young, and they're probably 18 to 20 age range. Yeah.
Well, I mean, if this is black market, they don't have to be 18 either, right?
Exactly.
It could be a child basically in that cage, right?
Right.
Gosh, I don't even know how to ask the question. I mean, what was going to come out of my mouth was, how does that even happen? I mean, I think you've explained it, but that's such a mind-blowing thing to hear, right? And I'm glad we're talking about it. I'm glad we're putting it out there for people to hear, because that's just a mind-blowing thing to hear.
And how easy it happens.
Right.
Right.
Because no one would set out to do that, right? You'd run the business yourself, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Not be on that end of the business.
All right.
There's more money on the other end of it.
Exactly.
And so are all these girls going to Pittsburgh, or is this like is it a delivery route?
No.
I don't mean to ask a stupid question, but I imagine a network of places up and down
absolutely
I-75 or, pick an interstate basically.
Yeah.
And just your transaction would have put you in Pittsburgh.
Yeah. So I know the way that she targeted, because when she was talking to me before about this, I didn't know what Backpage was to the degree. You know what I mean? Like I said, she befriended me and I just assumed it was like a one-time deal. She literally told me it was a one-time thing.
Sure.
And like a one-day thing. So I really didn't understand the extent of it. But when you can't find dope, you have someone that's offering you this, like at that point, you'll take anything.
So have you hit a point, like a low point, kind of going through our story here, right? Mm-hmm. You were in control. Things are going okay.
Mm-hmm.
You move over into the heroin and whatever else is mixed with this heroin. Are you hitting a low point at this part, or like how do you transition from I'm in somewhat control into suddenly I'm in a hotel and I'm being trafficked? How did you get there?
Well, the pills, again, like I didn't do anything bad for them. Like my life was still okay. But when you get introduced to heroin and the lifestyle that comes with heroin, like meeting criminals, meeting people that you just don't know, but on top of like dancing in the club, I did travel around like different states. I was very careless with my life.
Yeah.
Truly.
Yeah.
And you were talking about, was this like something like, so especially with Backpage, they would target the biggest cities that had like the most girls on Backpage. So that's how they targeted those cities was, they're making bank up here. They know how to do the math, right? But when you get on heroin and you get introduced, I started out by getting robbed because you'll just meet anybody. Exactly like I was saying earlier, I could go to Takes Creek and meet someone random, but I have no idea what that might entail.
Right.
Anything could happen.
Right.
That might be the worst person in the world that I should have ran up on. So it's like things like that. So I would slowly, like I've been robbed at gunpoint. And then there's stupid people that are just trying to, they're on drugs, just trying to make money, which makes them dangerous to get a hold of a gun. And, they beat you and tie you up and rob you at gunpoint. Things like that.
Did you experience those when you were driving the car, when you were the driver?
Like traumatic? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I did.
I would imagine there would have to be, and you don't have to answer if you don't want, but I would imagine there's a lot more being demanded of you than, hey, hop in your Honda Accord or whatever it is you drive and take us to Atlanta. I would imagine there's a lot more expectations of you than just simply driving the car back and forth.
Yeah. So initially there wasn't, right? That's how they get you.
Yeah.
But then eventually, I would start bringing a girl with me because I never wanted to. And so he would say, it's either you or you bring another girl with you. And then I would tell that girl, hey, if you sleep with this dude, he'll give you extra money than all the other girls. And that makes you special because he's like the top dog, right?
Yeah.
So you're like, not many people can touch him. I mean, why would you not want to be with him?
Yeah.
And that's what I would do. And then that would get him off me for the night.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And it kind of brings you complicit into some of this, right? That you're now bringing somebody else into it for that purpose.
Yep.
And I'm sure that person then would be expected to drive a car or whatever else next time.
Yeah.
So it just keeps a supply of fresh people coming through there.
Exactly.
Wow. Let's talk about the escape a little bit.
Yeah.
What did the escape look like?
Well, so they tied me up, right, behind my head, my hands behind my back and my feet behind my back as well, and put a bag on my head. They put me in a cage. There was, I can't remember, like 6 cages in the back. It looked like a dog pound. Like you see a truck that has like a dog pound in the back. That's what it looked like. So as I was waking up, because at this point I'm going into withdrawal. And so you kind of wake up and you're like realizing what's going on, because I remember at the beginning, I didn't know what to believe or like what was going on. So I kept just going back to sleep. And so when I woke up and realized, shit, like I really just got kidnapped and I'm really like I'm probably about to die. So you go into survival mode. And so I was a kid. My dad used to teach me how to pick locks.
Yeah.
And so I had seen this screw at the bottom of the cage where it was loose. And so I sit there and I fumbled with it over and over and over again, and I had fake nails on that were the points. And so I sit there and turned it and got it out. And then I was able to mess with the lock and get it open.
How'd you get your hands out from behind your back?
They take them out once you got in the cage. They took them off of you.
Oh, I see.
Because you can't even sit up. Like you have to, like they were literally meant for a dog.
Right.
So you would be on your hands and knees at the highest point in the cage.
Yeah.
So you were shoved in there.
Sure, because you can run to any store and get a dog cage.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yep. So I was at eye level with this lock. I was able to do that. And so I got it open and finally just kicked it open.
And you're naked at this point?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm naked. These other girls, you can tell that they had, I don't know if they had like IV. I don't know what was given to them, but they weren't even conscious. I mean, they were conscious, but like they didn't make sense. They were constantly in and out. And I was like, if I don't get out now, they're going to give me something next time we pull over. So that way I'm compliant. Not only compliant, but I'm not even going to be aware or like try to attempt to escape. And I don't think they were ready for that either. I don't think they'd ever experienced someone escaping. But so whenever they opened the back of the door, one of the guys came around the back of the truck and I heard him talking, and I heard him say, "I'll be right back. I'm going to pump gas." The guy opened the door and the cage was already kicked open. I just shut it back. And I just took off and it was like literally skipped across the back of the truck and out, and I bypassed him. But because we were in a big city and there's people everywhere, people are going to notice a naked girl that just come out of the back of a truck.
Right? Yeah, I hope.
Yeah. There's a naked girl that just jumped out of the back of this truck. Right?
Yeah, like thank God you're not like on some random interstate stop, right?
Yeah, yeah. And so I think that was like the smartest thing was, I think everything happens for a reason, but I think I got very lucky, because if we would have been in like a country back road or whatever, that wouldn't have happened. But they're not going to chase me when they have other girls in the back of the truck.
Yeah, they got to close the door and get out of there.
Exactly. Yeah. So I knock on, and I feel bad. I felt bad since then, but I knocked on their window. You could tell they were like in their 70s. And I told them that I'd been kidnapped. I just escaped. They could smell pee and stuff on me from being in the truck for all that time, but also next to me. And so they let me get in their car, and they just gave me like a jacket to put around me because I was cold. And they drove me back to Indiana where I lived.
Did you say where you were when you escaped? Where were you?
I was in Louisville.
Oh,
no.
Louisville's where you got put in.
That's where I got put in. Yes. I don't remember, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think I was just ready to get out of there. I didn't even ask.
Yeah. I wouldn't. I just didn't know if you knew, just for whatever reason that you would know. So this couple drove you back to Indiana to your home?
Yeah. Yeah.
Did they offer to call the police?
They did. But I actually begged them not to, because my aunt had just gotten out of prison, and I was scared because her husband owned a gun. He wasn't a criminal. He didn't have like a felony on his record, but because she went to prison and just got out, she was on parole. I wasn't supposed to be staying there. And I had a misdemeanor warrant out of Kentucky. Oh. So I begged them not to. And I actually lied to them and told them my aunt already did. They're on the way. And so they were like, okay, all right, well, I hope everything works out. So I think they were in shock, just trying to, it was just nice that they did that.
So I didn't expect you to call the police. I didn't think you would want the police to be called.
No, I didn't.
I can, for every reason, I would think that you would say, I don't want the police called. I was curious what your answer would be. And I was curious what their reaction was to that, right? Because you had to drive for some amount of time to get from wherever you were to your home.
Yeah.
Right. So there's at minimum 30 minutes, but it's probably a lot longer than that. Right. And so I'm just trying to think, what if that happened to us, right? And we're driving down the road, we would help. I like to think that we would help.
Oh my God, yes.
But that drive from wherever you are, somewhere
it was hours.
Somewhere between Louisville and Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
So if you just took half of that and you're driving to Indiana, I mean, you're at minimum a couple hours to get over there. I mean, it's a pretty difficult conversation to say we've got a naked, troubled person in our back seat who's telling us that the police are coming. You know, and if you were to think about it, that wouldn't make sense. You mean the police are coming in Indiana?
Yeah. Well,
I just got you out of a truck, 10 miles down the road, huh? It just seems kind of strange, but
it is. And I think they said they were going to call the police, and that's whatever. I was like, I begged them not to. And when I said they did, but they hung the phone up. But I don't think they understood fully to the extent of like, they knew I escaped out of the back of the truck, but I think they were in fear. You know what I mean? So I think they were just trying to, we didn't talk a lot, but I mean, they let me lay in the back seat or whatnot, but they were like really nice and asked me what my name was. And they did get me something like a water. They did have a water. Asked me if I wanted some food, but at that point I'm shivering and I'm very sick, whatnot. But, when they dropped me off, I even had them drop me off like down the street because I didn't want them to know where I lived. And it was a good thing because whenever I pulled up, the girl that had sold me was outside of my aunt and uncle's house and was trying to kidnap me from there. Her and her brother came. She shot up the house while I'm inside. My uncle is shooting back and she's like trying to bust down the door. My aunt's like, they've never been through anything like that. And I felt bad. I put them through something like that. They had no idea. They thought I disappeared.
Think about how that had to have happened, right? So you jump ship at a gas station somewhere between Louisville and Pittsburgh.
Right.
Right. That truck can't spend time tracking you because they've got a truckload of other girls kidnapped and trafficked. So they've got to shut the door and they've got to haul ass somewhere, right? And so for that to happen, that means they called that girl to
immediately
say, hey, we've got troubles.
You need to find her and get her back here.
Your chick just jumped out. You better find her and get her back.
Or we're going to get you.
Because they've paid $50,000 for you. So she's pocketing all this cash and you're in somebody's back seat. And
they think it's a scam. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They think that I did it on purpose. For her
I'm not even considering that.
You know what I mean?
The box truck people think this is all set up.
All set up. Yep.
So you get dropped off down the street and you're walking down the street and you're like, holy shit, there they are at my house.
Yeah.
How did you get in?
So around the back, so the houses, so in New Albany, the houses are like, they're long and skinny.
Yeah. Shotgun houses.
Shotgun houses. Yep. And so around back, there was an old porch, like on the back of the porch, there was a screen door to the side and there was a bunch of like wood and stuff. I couldn't get in it, but my window was next to it and I had snuck out of this window before. And so I was able to like
Sneak back in.
Right. So then I'm freaking them out because like here I come naked and then all of a sudden my aunt and uncle's like, where did you come from? And then I told them like quickly. And then they look outside and sure enough, like they'd been out there. So I don't know how long they'd been out there for, but they didn't notice them until I said that. And then I don't know if I'm not going to mention, I almost said the person's name, but heard the commotion in the house because my aunt was like freaking out. She was screaming and crying and wouldn't call the police. And so it was just, and then next thing we know, like her and her brother came shooting up the house.
So did she and her brother know that you'd made it back in?
They had to.
Well, logic says that, but how do they know that?
I don't know. Whether they heard the commotion on the inside.
Yeah.
Or heard my voice because they're shotgun houses. Like you can hear through them, especially if you're screaming.
Right.
And I would think if they had been out there, right, and they didn't hear anything. And all of a sudden you hear commotion going on.
Yeah, she's inside.
Yeah.
So all this is going down, and suddenly there's a shootout that happens between the brother, the pimp, and your family that you're there.
Yep.
What's that look like?
So she tries to get in the front door, and she's like telling us like she's going to kill us all, things like a fear tactic kind of thing. I'm freaking out. I'm in the living room. My uncle's telling me to get down. Excuse me. He's telling me to get down on the ground. My aunt, she goes and gets the rifle. He's got a shotgun. She goes and gets the rifle. And my uncle is not going to shoot. He's waiting to shoot because he was like, I'm not going to do a shootout with you, but I will stand my ground. If you don't get off my property, I will shoot.
Yeah.
And so that words kept on getting exchanged. And then her brother started shooting at the house. And so it got hit. We stayed out of the front room, which was their bedroom, my aunt and uncle's bedroom. So we got in the middle of the house and laid down while he stood at the door trying to argue with her. She's trying to bust in. And luckily, like, she didn't get in, but he fired one off to the side. So that way she would think that we were shooting just to, like, get her off the property.
Yeah.
And then she takes off, and then they start shooting at the house. And then they disappeared. They left, which was shocking to me. And for like weeks and weeks, I was so scared to the point where I ended up leaving and didn't even come back.
Yeah, I think you'd almost have to. Right?
Yeah, I was scared I was going to get kidnapped again once I left the house.
For sure. So lots of questions there. I mean, did you ever see the pimp lady again?
No, but I have pictures of her on Facebook that I found. I cannot get off my Google photos, I think because they're tagged or whatever. But I've never seen her, but occasionally I'll get like a response on Facebook.
From her?
Yeah, just saying like, hey, how are you?
Oh, wow.
And I just block it.
Yeah, no shit.
Yeah. Yep.
So then she's still keeping up with you then?
She has to be.
Yeah, it has to be for a little bit.
Yeah.
Wow. Do you stay in contact with your aunt and uncle?
So they split, but my cousin Selena, which is her daughter, was murdered a couple weeks ago. We just had the memorial, and it was the first time I seen her. Yeah. She was 23 and she was murdered here in Lexington. And so I seen her for the first time, her and David, even though they're split up, they're really good friends now.
Yeah. So
I got to make my peace with them. You know,
good. Tell
them I'm sorry and stuff like that. And she was like, oh, it's in the past, but that had been like on my conscience. You know what I mean?
Well, sure. How many years ago was that?
That was in 2017.
So not too far back.
No.
I mean, it's relatively recent. Yeah, 7 years ago. Yeah. Wow. Okay. Well, so then it's important that you got to make your peace with them.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big deal. So you hadn't seen them since then. You left and you're not coming back.
Right.
Yeah. What about your cousin that was murdered?
Yes.
We don't have to get into the case, but do you know why she was murdered?
So she was on drugs. She got clean. And once she got clean, she moved to Lexington. She found a really good man. She used to live in Louisville. And she found a really good man. And I guess their relationship was rocky. Whenever she found out she's pregnant, he became very possessive. And so she was in the process of like trying to leave him, but she was afraid of him. Because I guess it progressively got worse. And so I guess he thought she was cheating on him, and he shot her outside. She went to leave and he shot her and then killed himself.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. So it was a murder-suicide.
Yeah. And that's a couple weeks ago, you said?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's awful. I'm sorry you had to experience that.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So before we get to the next phase, I guess, which is important because I think we need to talk about, what you've done with yourself since then, because I think that's, all the stuff that you shared is amazing to hear and to talk about. The next step, I think, is even better.
Yeah.
But before we get there, what else do we need to talk about with all this craziness that you've seen and experienced?
I do know there's one point that I wanted to make. This is something that I do not take lightly, just because I could have went to prison for a long time for this, and I don't tell many people this, but I just want to show what life really is like on that side and how bad it can be. And so I know you hear like a lot of bad stories, but so I'm going to tell a story about a guy that I had found out he's supposed to be my best friend. And I was staying in a hotel and I had another guy there and he had a gun and I'd never touched it or anything. Didn't know if it worked, didn't know if it was loaded, whatever. And so my friend knocked on the door and was bragging to the guy that was with me about how he had this video. And so I looked at the video and it wasn't the video I'm talking about. And so I look at the video and then I had like this bad feeling. And so I started scrolling over and he was like trying to get it back from me and I wouldn't give it back. And so I seen a video where he had like raped me and videoed it while I'm passed out. And it made me like furious.
The guy that knocked on the door at the hotel
yes.
is showing you and your friend this other video.
Yeah, now, that was irrelevant to this.
Correct, yeah.
Right, yeah.
Did you recognize the dude? I mean, did you know him?
Like the guy who showed up on my...
Uh-huh.
Oh, yeah, he was a friend of mine.
Oh, and the friend is who raped you.
Yes. Yes, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I should have clarified on that.
I'm sure it's my... I'm trying to remember all this like, holy shit.
It's okay.
Yeah.
So he was actually a guy that I used for like giving me rides everywhere or anytime I'd go to jail or get kicked out, he'd always go and get my stuff. Like he was the person that would do everything for me, but I didn't like him and that I was a very bad person to him. But he wasn't a good person either. And so when he showed up, he was showing us a video that was irrelevant. And then I had a bad feeling about something. And so usually when I do, I know I'm right. And so I was like, I need to look at something because, mind you, we have prior history of this. To this day, I'm still like finding stuff. So he had full access of my Google account. And so it wasn't until about 2 years ago I finally was able to, actually my wife was finally able to get him off my Google account. But there would be like random naked pictures of me that was on his phone and uploaded to my Google. So I would delete them and he would put them right back on there. Just things like that. Very perverted and unnecessary, but in violation of my life.
Sure.
So
intimidation.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. So back to the story. I scroll through, I find the video and I'm like, what is this? And I watch it and I realize what's going on. And I'm like furious. I'm really high on Xanaxes. That's how dangerous, like Xanaxes are dangerous if you do not take them as prescribed or need them for that reason. And so at that point, I picked this guy's gun up. I pointed it at him and I pulled the trigger.
Wow.
And thank God, as soon as I pulled that trigger, I immediately regretted it. And thank God it was jammed and it didn't work. But like that was like a moment in my life where I was just like, I could have went to prison for the rest of my life for this. I could have destroyed his life, his family's life over something so minute. But I think someone that has like a lot of trauma in their life and you finally get to a point and all you do is drugs over the years. You never go to counseling or therapy or you never even talk about it because I never talked about it. It was normal to me.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, and that's what it was like. It scared me. I was like, I have to do something about this because I'll end up killing myself or someone else. And I've never been a violent person. I can't even kill an animal.
Right.
I can't even stomp on a spider. And I hate spiders. I hate them. But,
other than a cricket.
Oh, no. I was high, okay? I'm going to use that excuse because that is so true. And you know, I used to go like deer hunting and turkey hunting. And I mean, I used to bow hunt and all kinds of stuff and no problem. But it's once I got into recovery, it's like, I can't kill anything. It makes me cry. My kid steps on an anthill and I'm like, you don't understand what you just did. It was their whole family in there.
Thousands of them live together.
Yeah. Do you know how long it took to build that?
They each had their own room.
Yeah.
So is that what led you to get clean?
One of them.
Yeah.
And I quit talking to him that very moment, which led me to this part. And that's why I brought it up. So he was the fall person. Like, even if I didn't have somewhere to sleep, the guy that I tried to shoot, even if I didn't have anywhere to sleep, he worked at Waffle House, actually right across the road here in Hamburg. And I would just sleep in his car all night. And then he would take me to his house and let me shower and then take me to work the next day after working a night shift. So I at least had somewhere to stay. And so when all that went down, I was asking anybody that would come in the club, hey, can you take me home? I need to ride home. And so within like a 2-week span, I can remember 3 rapes. I can remember. Now, I do not remember more, but I know that I woke up in places that I shouldn't have been, or like things like that I knew something had happened. And so I knew, like, that's when I tried to overdose myself, because I was like, this is just not worth living. So I tried to get a hotel room at the Catalina in Lexington, which is a crap hotel. I'd stayed there for a long time, full of dope guys. And so they were out of rooms, and I just went walking around, and there was a guy standing in a doorway, and he had on a white shirt and like khaki shorts. Looked like he just got out of prison. And he was like, hey, what's going on? And I told him, like, hey, I didn't have anywhere to go. I was looking for a hotel room. They were out. So he let me stay there. And so we formed like a friendship. It wasn't sexual or anything, but we formed a friendship. And so come to find out, he had just got out of prison 3 weeks prior to that. And then a week later, craziest thing, like, you want to talk about unbelievable shit. Like, this is something that I'm sure a lot of people won't believe me, but so I didn't know this guy was a Satanist, and he had a book of the Satan book underneath the bed. You know, I never seen it. So I didn't want nothing to do with him, because he started getting like clingy and stuff. And I was like, dude, like, I'm out. And I went to go get my stuff, and he ended up holding me hostage. And he took my phone. He never knew I had a private, like my other phone in my back pocket that I would call like dope people on. Mm-hmm. You could buy at a gas station. And so I called this guy that had raped me and didn't want nothing to do with him in the prior story I just told. And he called the guy that was holding me hostage and said, just please release her. I'll be there. It was like midnight. I'll be there at 6 a.m. when I get off work. Then I'll come get her, and you shouldn't have nothing to worry about. Like, you don't have to ever see her again. And so, in that meantime, so the guy warned the guy that was holding me hostage. He was like, listen, you're going to piss her off, because if you piss her off, like, she's going to make noise. And next thing, I broke out the back. So he locked me in the bathroom. I broke out the bathroom door, and I just started picking stuff up and throwing it. And then he tied me down. He had a 45 and a shotgun. He had his 45 in his lap. He was leaned up against the door. And he had like this satanic circle spray painted on the ground and these candles, and he had a robe on. And he told me that I was going to have Satan's baby. And I was like, this is like, is this even real? Am I tripping? Like, I'd never experienced anything like that before. But he truly, I guess he had joined the Satanist church while he was incarcerated. And he truly meant like he was either going to sacrifice me, or I was going to have, like, get pregnant with Satan's baby.
Yeah.
And he ended up raping me that night. And so I ended up making a lot of noise, and the cops got called. And so he had me underneath the bed, but he put the blanket up against the wall so they couldn't see. So every time they'd look under, they didn't see me, because the blanket against the wall was over me. So he looked under the bed 3 different times. And the 4th time, he went to shut the door, and he said, wait a minute. I don't know what told him, but I'm glad. And he just raised it up and found me. And he was like, do you know you have a warrant? And I was like, take me now. I'm ready to go to jail now. I have a warrant. Take me.
Yeah.
And
let me go commit some other crimes.
Exactly. Yeah.
Anything to get me out of here.
Yeah. Yeah. So he arrested me, and I didn't say anything about what had happened because I hadn't even processed what had happened yet. And so as I'm in the cop car, he hollers out to the officer, she's pregnant with my baby. And the officer said, are you really pregnant with his baby? And I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. That's crazy. Like, he is crazy. He's psychotic. And that was it. That was the conversation. So I go to jail, and I get sober and ended up meeting my wife, which was, I knew her prior, like we were like preschool or kindergarten type thing, you know, but we lost contact a long time ago. She was friends with my brother. But anyways, we started talking, and it was love at first sight. I'd never experienced that before. And I knew when I looked at her, I knew that I loved her from that moment. And so when you're in jail, I know it sounds cheesy to a lot of people, but when you're in jail, all you have to do is talk, right? So you don't know yourself, let alone someone else. But we built this foundation on who are you? Who are you truly? And so we got to know each other, and we fell in love. And then I wake up 5 months pregnant. I had a 6-month sentence, and she had a lot longer sentence than me, but
your wife did.
My wife did, yes, yeah. Then girlfriend, but so anyways, I find out I'm pregnant. I think she's gonna leave me because I was like, it had to come from one of the rapes, right? Because it didn't come from willingly. So now I'm like freaking out because I have a rape child in my stomach, and there's nothing I can do about it. I have to sit in jail. And so I think I would have used at that moment. If I would have been on the street, I probably would have. I know I would have used.
Well, no doubt. I mean, think how heavy that is.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. But she looked at me and she was like, no, this will be our baby. And I know it sounds silly to be with someone for like 5 months. But again, we talked to each other every day, all day. We really got to know our true selves. And so it was different. So I got out, and I ended up going back for 2 weeks. And then I called the doctor because I'd seen a life that I'd never experienced before. I seen a love from someone that I'd never been treated that way or looked at that way. And so she was like, you cannot do this. You can't do it to the baby. You can't do it to you. You cannot do it to us. Go get help. So I went to UK. I called the doctor, and I was like, I just relapsed for 2 weeks. I need help. I don't want to do this anymore. And so she told me to go get on Suboxone at UK. So I went to UK, and she said I had to be sober for 24 hours. I made it 23 hours and went out and used.
Wow.
I was like, it's just how it is.
Yeah.
But then I went to the hospital after I got my dope, and I was like, okay, I just did dope, but I cannot do this on my own. Can you please hold me here? And they were like, yes, we can hold you here. So from that moment, I never touched a drug again.
Wow.
Yep. So Suboxone saved my life. Absolutely.
Now your wife was she addicted? Was that reason she was in there?
Yes.
So what made her so strong in that moment? Right. If you're both addicts and you're both struggling to this point to where you're serving, right? And I get the connection, and I get talking, and I'm amazed by it, right? But what seemed to translate to me in your story was that your wife was a rock at the very moment that you needed a rock, right?
Yes.
What gave her the strength to be that rock when you're both fighting the same demons?
So, and this is what I believe. When we both met each other, we were at our lowest we had ever been. And I said the moment that I got in there, I was like, thank God it's over. Like I was on my knees, like puking and stuff. And I was like, I will never do this again. And that was the first time I ever believed it. I ever truly meant what I was saying. And so the same with her. She had been done and didn't know how to stop. She was she was also like going through, the criminal lifestyle. Like she was actively like doing a lot of things to get in trouble, which led her to being in jail. But, but she was done. And so she actually did the Hope Center. I think that was a pivotal moment for her. But also, she had never had a boyfriend. She had a couple here and there, but she didn't know she was gay until she met me. And so I think at that moment, she knew she had a life's purpose, that she didn't have kids. And so she just wanted to she wanted to be there for me. She knew how damaged that I was, and she knew how strong she was mentally. So she didn't get on Suboxone or anything like that. She just never used again. But I think that we gave her purpose and a reason to live. And I think that's why. And she's always been that way.
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty remarkable, right? Just it's the universe or whatever reason you want to assign to it, had you all cross paths at that very moment. Because any other moment, right? Any other jail cell assignment, not going to jail. I mean, any other thing other than what happened to you.
I know.
Who knows what the end result would have been.
I know.
Well, we probably know what the end result would have been.
Right.
Right. Your funeral would have already happened.
Oh, yeah. Years ago.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
So you got clean.
I did. Yeah.
And how long has that been?
5.5 years.
Yeah. Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's pretty awesome.
Thank you.
So 5.5 years ago, you're done with that whole life. Right. And so now let's talk about what you're doing now.
Okay.
Right, so what do you do now?
So right now I work for the University of Kentucky. I started as a peer support with a federal grant called HEAL. And I started doing peer support work, and I realized how much I truly loved helping people. And my entire life, I always asked, why have I went through all the things that I went through? Because there's a lot of people in life that's never experienced a quarter of what I'd experienced, let alone, everything. So I always wondered, why me? What have I done to deserve that? And so now it was once I realized that I was a peer support, I was this is what I was meant to do, because I can help anybody and everybody in all aspects, basically.
Did you ever answer why you got chosen to do that? I mean, did you ever answer that question really internally? Why me? Why did I get chosen to do this? Did you ever come up with an answer for that?
Yeah.
What is it?
Because I believe that everything that I've went through in life, I've always been I've always wanted to love, and I've always wanted to help people, and I never knew why, but I couldn't help myself. And so the moment that someone said, hey, you would be a really good peer support. And so once I started, I was I never want anything to do with recovery again. I don't want nothing to do with that. I'm not going to walk around quoting AA scriptures all day. That's just not me. But I started doing peer support. And again, I was asking that question, and I realized, well, why not me? Right? I have been a victim. I'm not just a survivor. I am absolutely a victim, but I survived it, and I've accomplished a lot in my life, and I have a lot to offer. So why not me?
Yeah. Have you met other people like you?
In many aspects, yes.
Yeah. Have you met somebody with a story like yours?
No.
Yeah. I was just curious if you haven't.
No.
I've met a lot of people in my travels, and I've seen a lot of things in my travels from a different perspective. I don't know if I've met somebody with a story like yours. I think that's pretty impressive. Yeah.
You haven't even heard the half of it.
We got a whole week's worth of recording to go.
I mean, we'd be here all night.
We'll order DoorDash and we'll just keep it going.
Yes. Next episode.
Yeah, that's right. So part of peer support, the people that you're working with are addicts, or when you say I'm in peer support, what do you mean by that?
Okay. So a peer support specialist is kind of like a mentor. So you have someone who's been in recovery for at least 3 years, and they've not only been in recovery, but they've done a lot in recovery and changed their behaviors, their criminal thinking. So I taught cognitive behavior therapy. So teaching people how to retrain their brain on not how to think things. So instead of the AA way, like a belief system, it's a scientific way of how to truly retrain your brain. So I'm going to give an example as part of being a peer support. So Lexington used to be a massive trigger for me because every corner I'd either done drugs on, did this, done that. And so I couldn't look at Lexington the same. That's all I seen was trauma, trauma, trauma. Mm-hmm. And so what I did was every time I went to Lexington, I would find a couple places that triggered me. And I would say, oh, wow. So I have a T that's right here in front of me, Pure Leaf. Say that's a Pure Leaf building. And I did drugs on the side of it, whatever. So I would say, Pure Leaf. I wonder where that originated from. Why did they call it that? I wonder, like, just asked like a bunch of different questions. And then I started looking at it in that aspect as, oh, wow, that's the real, like, Pure Leaf. If I ever want tea, I can go get it. And so I started doing that with every location. And I literally did that with every location.
So like you reprogrammed yourself?
I reprogrammed. Yes, absolutely.
Based on what? I mean, I get the Pure Leaf example because it's sitting in front of us. But if you picked a random building, let's just say Al's Bar at 6 and Lime.
Yeah.
Right. How would you reprogram Al's Bar at 6 and Lime?
So the way that I did bars itself was being in recovery. I can drink occasionally. I think I've gone far in my recovery, but I also don't believe abstinence is the answer to everything. I believe that you can live a normal life. And so looking at a bar, I literally said that would be fun to go to.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I wonder, like, just something normalized. But when it comes to like bars that I used to go to, I'll probably just like ignore them. But I don't go to bars. So I've set those limits. I may go to a gay bar occasionally or go see like a drag show, but I have no purpose in going to those locations. So it's not like I want to go out to those places on purpose.
Well, I get that. Right. But we were talking about you reprogramming it. Right.
Right.
And I mean, Al's Bar is just an example.
Maybe it wasn't a good one for me.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fine. But just pick a building, right? I mean, let's move on up the street just a little bit. Gray Line Station, right? That's at Loudon and Lime. I guess I'm seeking that internal thing, right?
Okay.
Because what I'm not hearing from you is I went to such and such program and such program taught me a coping mechanism. And this is one of the solutions that training taught me to do. What I'm hearing from you is that you've had enough and you've said, you know what, I'm going to go fix myself.
Yeah.
And that when I come to Lexington, I'm so triggered by my past that I don't want anything to do with it. But at some point you decided, no, we're going to fix it. And we're going to fix it now. And so you're figuring this out on your own. And please correct me if I'm wrong, but that's what I'm hearing from you. So you would see a building like Gray Line Station and somehow you would cope with it.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to figure out is how does that translate?
So, I think it comes along with trauma. So if you have like trauma in your life, yes, therapy works for you or this works for you or whatever. But a program can only help you so much. And so I do see like the different clubs that I worked at and I find humor in it. I was like, oh yeah, that was a good time or whatever. But I have it as I've worked through a lot of my trauma. And so when you work through a lot of your trauma and I meditate, and that's a whole nother conversation that we can have. But basically when you're done, you're done. Right. And so I didn't want to live and breathe it. So with peer support, turning around and helping someone else who is at their lowest and they don't know how to get up and you can say, hey, this is how I did it. So there's a difference. So there's linkage and retention. Linkage. So I used to shoot up, right? I know I'm scatterbrained right now, but I'm just like, I got to say this. So I used to shoot up and I used to go to a syringe service program, which is where you can go get free needles, things like that to use with. And it's anonymous. And so I decided the first thing I was going to do was go work at a syringe service program. And that's what I did. And so that empowered me to be like, oh, this no longer harms me. This is something I am no longer afraid of. And I can help people. I looked at it at a different aspect. So seeing someone not spread HIV, which I had and I have been cured from now, but watching someone not spread diseases and using cleaner, but also coming there to like, there's just like, anyways, that was a positive experience for me. So before I used to be afraid of them and now Like, I love them. I'm still in contact with them. But when it comes to like today, so you said, yes, the recovery program taught me this, it taught me that. Yes, it did. But there's more to it. Mm-hmm. So I stepped out and was like, okay, you can only teach me so much, but I have to do something, because you can take the drug away. You still have the person, right? Mm-hmm. So the drug's only the symptom. It's not the person itself. And so only so much can go so far. So I started taking classes. I started getting college credits. I started doing a lot of things that was out of my norm, stepping out of my norm. And I had to step away from Lexington for a long time, a lot of those places, so that way I was no longer triggered while going through these things. But I got trained. It's called Smart Recovery. Mm-hmm. So Smart Recovery, yes, it is a meeting, but it's not AA or NA, and it's cognitive behavior therapy. And so going through that myself and teaching that for 2 years, then I stepped away and I volunteered. I don't think I'm answering your question. No,
you're answering it perfectly. I mean, I'm hearing from you, and please, if I say something stupid, I want you to correct me, right?
You're fine. I'm all over the place.
No, you're not. This is awesome. What I'm hearing from you is, you went to programs that provided you a foundation.
Exactly.
End of the day, no, not end of the day. Yeah, I guess ultimately that decision was yours to say, I'm done.
Yeah.
And so the change actually comes from within.
Yes. Yes.
Not so much the program, because the person is still left there with their desires, addictions, whatever it is that's in their life. They're still left there with it.
Yeah.
So, I've not experienced that. So this is all new for me. You're the first person I've ever had this conversation with to explain,
wow,
what does this process look like? So,
okay.
So for me asking, I have no reference point. Okay. Right. I've seen addiction, and I've done my part with a previous career with addiction, but I've never been on this part of it. So for me, I'm looking at it to say, well, a program or therapy or treatment, whatever title we're going to put on it, provides you some type of solution. And what I'm hearing from you is, it gives you a playbook.
Yeah.
For a solution, but the solution is from the person.
It is. You have to have a purpose of living, whether it's a higher power, or for me, it was being pregnant, and I had lost 3 other children in the past to social services. And so getting into recovery this time, having my son, he was about to be born, fresh in recovery. I was on Suboxone. I had him alone, and I was in the hospital for 2 months because I had gestational diabetes and a lot of other issues. And so the moment I looked at him, I was like, I will do everything in my power to live. And so there was actually a moment where I had to sign a waiver because my body was just not good in shape, where who was to live and who I had to sign like a waiver, who was to live and who was to die, if that came down to it. Because there was a 50-50 chance one of us wasn't going to live. And I picked him. Mm-hmm. But then you have to think about, well, then who's going to take care of him?
Right.
Right. So like, is he going to go to the system? But I still picked him. And luckily that didn't happen. But once that happened, I did find God for a while. That worked for a little bit. But again, it has to come within.
Yeah.
And so I was able to learn structure for the first time. I'd never had structure in my life. My grandmother took me in, and let me tell you, that woman you never want to live with. She's mean. Okay. Yeah. She's mean. She's strict.
A good cook, but don't piss her off, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Yes. And I think like what did it for me, I didn't feel like I was worthy. So what I mean by that is, yes, she let me stay there with Kai. I never lost him. I was able to work a case plan. I did that successfully, so that was part of being responsible. But she wouldn't let me wake up and feed him without her sitting next to me. She didn't trust me. Mm-hmm. I couldn't bounce him because she said I was going to make him throw up. But she didn't. She looked at me as like a horrible person, and so it was like I couldn't do anything.
Do you think she really looked at you as a horrible person?
I do.
Do you really?
I think, yeah. Maybe not deep down inside, but on a big surface level, absolutely. Yeah. But I had shown her a lot of bad things. for a long time.
And I don't mean to interrupt your story.
No, you're fine.
But, I mean, doesn't that stand out to you as what a matriarch of a family is supposed to look like?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Tough love.
Yeah. That when you needed it the most, she's the one that's going to show it to you.
Yeah. And she did. She did. And I don't know if she would have done that differently, if I would have been responsible the way that I am now. I mean, when I met Kelsey, I was fighting every day in jail. I was always going in and out of the hole. I had no respect for authority. You would tell me not to do something, I would do it and then laugh at you. And, I was just a horrible person. So for every single day, and I'm talking like 6-7 months, my grandmother was like, you cannot make his bottle because you're intentionally trying to burn his mouth. Just constantly hearing that over and over again made me want to prove myself even more instead of going the opposite way. Because you made the choice, you're done. Well, here's my motivation. And so my great grandmother, who's 90 years old at the time, she died at 95, said, now, Ashley, you got to listen, just roll it off your shoulder. Okay. She does this to me all the time. So she would like.
Not a bad great grandma voice.
No. Yeah. Oh, really? I never tried that, by the way.
It's a night full of firsts.
Yeah. But she would always, I would get mad and I'd go in there and she always stayed in like a lounge chair and she would talk to me and tell me to look at it in a different angle. And so for the first time, I had like a guidance because I truly didn't have a mother or father guidance in life. And so I was able to like suck it up and say, you know what, I'm going to make this better. And I did. And from that moment, it was like I never stopped. I went full force. Like I got a job and like working at a factory. And when I did, I worked my way up and I was like, damn, like I really am smart. I really am all of these things. I'd never proved myself, right? I thought I was worthless. I was nothing but a piece of property to somebody. I'm worth money, like $20 maybe, like to a single person in that aspect of like selling your body and stuff. But that's it. Like I never knew my worth. And so when you start seeing that and you start getting feedback of like, damn, you're good at this job, you're going to make it to the top, then you get that way. So within the 5.5 years, the first 2 years of my recovery, I went from being homeless to living with my grandma, to getting an apartment, getting married, and buying a home. And I have a 4-bedroom, 2-acre lot. It's not much, but it is to us,
Sure it is.
And so we bought it down on Harrington Lake, where I actually grew up. And I've owned it for 3 years. We've never missed a payment. And that right there, if that's not, like, I never thought I'd ever own a home. But also, like, the main backbone was my wife. Mm-hmm. She's the one that taught me how to do everything. I didn't even know how to schedule appointments. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't even know I needed to call and, like, take care of this or call and take care of that. And, like, she showed me that route that no one had ever showed me before.
Do you think, did you ever prove yourself to Grandma?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. She calls for me every day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Still?
My TV. I don't know what I've done to my TV. I'm on my way.
So I think you answered the question of how she would treat you if it was different, right?
Yes.
So at some point you showed her that.
Oh, yeah.
The old Ashley's gone.
Yeah. And I want to say this briefly. I know we've been on here forever, but so when Kelsey, like, she hates gay people, like, she really hated gay people. And so it was very hard, like, coming out to her because she never knew that I was pregnant. And then all of a sudden, like, hey, I have a baby. Can I come stay with you? But also that I was gay. I had been since I was 10. I just didn't tell anybody. And it's a whole nother thing. But so she wouldn't allow Kelsey to show up at the house. She had to park down the street and I had to go see her. Once Kelsey got released from prison, which was like 5 months after Caden was born. And so she had to park down the street, and then eventually she made it up to my uncle's house next door in the driveway. Then she could go in there. Then she could park in front of the house. And then it slowly, like one day, then Grandma was like, hey, you can come inside. And she was like, I don't think I want to. But she did.
I've heard about the stuff that happens in here.
Yeah. Exactly.
Where's great grandma? Yeah.
Is there a shovel?
Yeah, that's right.
So it went from that to like, my grandma just gave us her old truck and called Kelsey over and not me. Like she had surgery and she called Kelsey and asked her to take her to surgery and was like, this is my granddaughter. And I'm like, my grandma's never been this way. So not only has she done this with me, but she's done this with Kelsey. And she will call Kelsey, my wife, over me any day. And it kind of makes me jealous.
Yeah. Still got to prove yourself to Grandma. Daggone it, Grandma. What more do I have to do?
Oh, well, Kelsey said I need to contact her more.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I talk to her once a week.
That's funny.
But that's how drastic, life's been.
Yeah, that's right. Let me ask you this. You mentioned working at the Syringe Service Center, whatever the right title for that is. There's a big segment of population that would say nobody wants that in their neighborhood. Nobody wants that in their town. Nobody wants that on the corners, right? At least I'm sharing that.
Right. No, you're right.
Concept with you. I don't know if it's right or not, but
it is.
In my travels, it feels like that's right. Mm-hmm. Right. The pushback's always that it's not effective and you're not really solving anything. You're just making it easier.
Right. Enabling.
Yeah. Great word. What's your response to that?
So you can't just have like a syringe service program, right? So the health department is what forms it. But I understand people's perspectives. And so as experience from someone who's experienced this and done something about it, it's crazy that you asked me that because we had a lot of kickback in Richmond because I worked in the one in Richmond. We had a lot of kickback. And so what I did was I went to the county meetings where they would have like open meetings. And I proposed that we would have safer injection containers around the city. I got the mobile unit van started to where we don't have to worry about getting needle, like people coming to the syringe service only. So we could actually take the syringes on the van and go to them to their home. And because you have to return one back, like you don't get one without one. So 1 for 1. And so because of that, people held theirs. And then we ended up getting people that would pick them up, and things like that. So it turned out to be very positive for us. We went to the homeless shelters that were there and so they seen a positive. So the angry people seen a positive response. They seen people that were using syringes no longer being careless because they knew we would not serve you anymore. Then you would not be able to get syringes and then you're out of luck. And so I don't think it's enabling people. They have to see it as this way. They're not spreading HIV. They're not spreading diseases and a lot of other different things. But if you cut them off altogether, what are they going to do? They're going to find people they're going to break in pharmacies again. They're going to find people that are grandmothers who's diabetic and steal theirs instead of going and getting them diabetic needles. Because not just people that are using can come get it. If you're diabetic and can afford needles, you can go in and get it for free, and it's anonymous. So, I mean, I would just tell them tough shit. I'd be like, shame on you.
So in the work that we do now, there's a lot of that we come to that same conclusion multiple times a week, probably, where tough shit is kind of the answer, right? And so with our work now, there's a lot of things that happen that are just kind of jaw-dropping to us and eye-opening, or whatever the right title is, right? And coming from a place where maybe I didn't experience one, and I've experienced a lot of the stuff that I look at now. Right. But you get to those places where it challenges one's way of thinking, right? Right. Which is why it's important to have these conversations, right? And so I don't think a lot of people know a lot of the stuff that's going on. And that's what I hope the show really ultimately accomplishes somewhere down the road, is to highlight a lot of the stuff that's happening. And listen, you're a local person to here. You're from here. You live here. Right. You grew up here. These things, we talked about videos in Philadelphia, right? Right. This stuff didn't happen when you're in Philadelphia. It happened right here. Right here. Still happening today. those experiences that you had in the box truck, et cetera, I mean, that's still happening today. Would you say yes or no to that? Is that still happening?
Yes. I think they will always continue.
Sure it will.
If there's a black market, if there's any kind of money attached to that, absolutely it will happen.
Yeah.
But if people continue to close their eyes and turn their cheeks and not look the other way and say out of sight, out of mind, of course it's going to happen.
Yeah. Push the crime over here to this one particular area and then leave it there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Doesn't affect me.
Doesn't affect me. Boy, there's a lot to unwind in that, isn't there?
There is.
We could talk for a whole nother day.
I know.
So part of what you do now is you travel the state giving Narcan,
yes.
providing Narcan.
Yes.
And I'm sure more, but touch on that just a little bit. I think that's important to hear.
Yeah. So before I got sidetracked, I said I work for the University of Kentucky. Yeah. I do that a lot, by the way.
Hey, that's why we're here.
Bear with me.
Yep.
Okay. So being a peer support, I felt like I had exceeded what I had done and that I felt like there was more I should do. And that's why I took the initiative to become a prevention specialist, besides the $5 more an hour, but which is a big deal for someone like me, because we usually don't get jobs like that. So I get
Meaning what? Because you're a former addict?
Because I'm a former addict and I'm a former felon. And, like I've never had a professional job per se, like just someone that's never lived a normal, I can't say normal, but lived a productive life.
Yeah. Okay.
So, but not many people come out on the other side either.
That's right.
And when they do, it's very hard.
Yeah.
And that's why you see a lot of homeless people. But back to handing out Narcan. So I watched many people die. And I never overdosed, thank God. But I have watched people drop right in front of me, especially like on this job. But I have family members have died. And but when I knew that I could go to like high risk locations and hand them out, and then pumpkin festivals and hand it out, like I was like, this is like a dream come true, because I get to show them that I'm no longer in that position where I'm actively using or having to utilize to go get Narcan myself, but I've also came through it and can show other people. So, I get to help people understand what Narcan does, because they do what you said that syringe service programs does. Mm-hmm. They think that it's enabling them. Oh, well, they're just going to use it and then go get high again. But what about the teenager that hit a vape that had fentanyl in it? And you don't think that's like they shouldn't have Narcan because they accidentally hit it? It's not not everybody that overdoses is not using drugs.
Right.
What about your elderly parent who couldn't see and took too much medication or forgot? Because that's happened. So it's nice to be able to educate people, but also put a lot of Narcan into the community and save a lot of people's lives. Like I said earlier, I've seen people drop right in front of me.
Yeah. Would you say that in your experience, right? I'm asking you mm-hmm. specifically.
Yeah.
Would you say in your experience that the Narcan has saved lives?
Yes.
Without a doubt.
Without a doubt.
You're confident.
I am absolutely confident.
I think this conversation gets to a much bigger place, right? Where society, and let's not lump anyone into this,
right,
into this comment, I don't think, but it really gets into a place where society starts to place a value on a human life.
Yes.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah. Thank you. Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Well, I'm just saying, take that business and put it over mm-hmm. there, right?
Yes.
Out of sight, out of mind.
Yes.
We don't care.
Mm-hmm.
Not impacting me.
Right.
Stay out of my business storefront.
Yeah.
Right. Keep your shit over there. You all do your thing. Or the pushback's going to be that these syringe service centers are going to lead to greater usage and greater spread of whatever. Mm-hmm. Or that, why give the Narcan out because they're just going to turn around and use again.
Yeah.
And so that very comment really destroys the value of a human life.
Who made you God?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
You don't get to choose over a life. Who gets to live and die?
Yeah, that's right.
But they do.
Well, that's the bigger issue to talk about sometime, right? Is that society places value on human life.
Exactly.
And they start to see that, because the pushback I would think, or the response I would expect from you would be, not from you specifically, but for the advocates for these programs, the pushback, if we can save just one life, right?
I understand that.
Yeah, as you should. But the flip side of it is that what cost is one life, you know, and how much are we spending for one life?
Exactly.
And nobody wants to confront the fact that in short,
right,
we're placing a dollar sign on human lives. And my God, this could go into the whole criminal justice system and everything else, right? And it will over time. That's where we're going to take these things. But society is placing a value on human life. And who are we to do that? Right?
I know.
So it's refreshing to hear you say it, and it's refreshing to have that conversation. And I think more people need to hear it.
And I think when people say things like that, I'm glad. That's a good point, because a lot of people say, if I can do it, you can do it. Or if we just save one life. Like, I've said that over and over and over and over again. But did I truly understand what that meant? No. It's just learned behaviors. It's learned English that we hear every day. Just like, I'm not knocking AA, it saves a lot of people.
Sure.
But I was quoting nothing but AA, but didn't practice it or understand it and didn't preach it. So when it comes to, like, yes, we can save one life, but it's a bigger picture than that. And regardless, it's in everybody's houses now. It's in judges, lawyers. It does not discriminate. Addiction is everywhere. And now we're seeing a lot of teenagers who are dropping.
Yeah. Like
overdosing a lot. And so I would never say that. I would never, if we could just save one life.
Now, and that's a little stereotypical for me to toss out.
No, that was a good point.
But that was
a good point.
That is the point, right?
Yeah.
And it gets much bigger to you personally when you say people like us don't get these jobs, we don't get these opportunities. Well, once again, you're speaking to society placing a value upon your life. And society also says, my words, okay?
Right.
Once a piece of trash, always a piece of trash. It doesn't matter. If she's made her bed, she'll lie in it.
Yeah.
Right. But you're the example of being able to come out of it better and stronger.
Right.
Now to a place where others would be enviable of the life that you live, which is wonderful, as it should be, right? So it's just, I don't know, it's kind of a paradox, I guess maybe is the word, or an irony or whatever else to say, there is still a value that's been placed upon human life because of your story.
Right.
And even though you've been clean for 5.5 years or so, you're still fighting that battle, whether internal or external.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's pretty heavy.
And then you feel like you always have to prove yourself with things. But again, I think that people can recover. And I think that you can, I social drink sometimes.
Yeah.
But to me, it's bringing back normalcy to my life. I have to have normalcy to my life, but there's limitations. People don't understand that. Don't drink to feed your feelings.
Yeah.
You drink just to be sociable, or don't go to a bar, just things like that. But a lot of people I know, and then I'll quit. When I was in active use, matter of fact, it was like a month before I got into recovery. I remember looking in the mirror and saying, I've never been in love before. I'd never experienced true love. I'd never seen that before. But I would always see couples and envious, right? I would see couples in Walmart, and I'd see couples out, and I'd be like, wow, I'll never have that. Just knowing I will never have that. And so all of a sudden I have that, and I'm like, what do I, I don't know how to do this. But now that I have it, I get to show other people, I was in your place. I never thought that I would ever see my life like this. And you're worth something. You have value.
Yeah.
You bring value.
It's funny you said that about not drinking for emotions or whatever else. I've said that so many times. I think I'm afraid of myself, and I think I'm afraid of some addictive, what's the word? Behaviors or tendencies maybe that
Everybody has them.
Sure they do. And I think maybe I've just been on the fortunate end to recognize that.
Exactly.
Hey, man, you better be careful of some of that. So I make it a practice now that I don't drink for any emotion. So if I drink, it's just because, and I'll have a glass of bourbon or something like that, or some other mixed drink, whatever. It doesn't really matter, I don't guess. But I'll make sure that there's no emotion tied to that drink.
Exactly.
And if there's one thing that becomes consistent now with me and that topic is that.
Right.
And so social drink, great. I'm fine with any of that. Right. Mm-hmm. But I make sure, like, if I were to go home tonight and say, oh my God, the first episode was incredible, let's have a drink
to it.
Yeah, I won't do it.
Yeah.
Or on the other side of that too, if I'm really pissed off or stressed out or whatever else, I won't at all. I want no emotion tied to it. So funny you said that.
Yeah. Because you have to have limitations, whether you're in addiction or not. That's with anything. But I think that's great that you do that. I've not, to be honest, I've not heard anybody say that in all these years. Yeah. I've never heard someone say that to me.
Well, I don't know when I figured it out, but it's been within the last couple of years that I thought,
good for you.
Yeah. That something within me has drives me to do that. And I recognize, I'm not saying obsessive, but I recognize certain things which is also a human trait, right? Once you find something that you like, you become almost obsessive with it, right? Or you want to experience that often and more.
Exactly.
And more. And so something about me is just recognize that in myself to say, hey, this is a fun thing to be involved in, but at the same time, you fortunately, I recognize the fact you got to put the brakes on it at some point or learn to manage it on the front end. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, I'll have problems on the back end. Do you think that proving yourself is always going to be your driving factor?
So I'm a Virgo, so I'm very analytical and I have a high standard, but I don't think proving myself to other people is no longer in the question. I think it's myself. Mm-hmm. Even though I know how far I've reached, I know how far I can reach. And so I think proving to myself, yes. And I don't think it will be forever, no. Because people in my life, they didn't know that I was in recovery until I told them. Because your behavior show it all, right? Your lifestyle shows it all. Yeah. But yes, proving to myself, yes.
I mean, I think it's a driving factor. I still got to prove it to myself. Yeah. Right. I'm not sure it's going to be the driving factor for you or I, but I think it's just innate that we have that.
Exactly.
I have plenty of insecurities and plenty of things that I've got to push myself through almost daily sometimes to say, hey, accomplish this and do something with it. So interesting to hear.
Yeah.
You brought a great big list of stuff. Have we covered what we need to cover?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Any other great stories we need to? There's a whole other side to you that we haven't covered yet.
I know.
There's like two other sides that we haven't covered yet. Will you come back and share them with us?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, there's so much more that we need to talk about. That we've kind of covered this part, I think, but there's a whole other piece of you, a couple pieces of you that I think we probably need to tell the world about and share. Would you come back and share them with us?
Yes, and if you like Ghost, that's all I'm going to say.
Ooh. Yeah.
Come back and listen.
Come back and listen. All right, what else we need to put on the show?
No, that's it. I just hope that people hear it and want to listen to it and take it into account and not just, oh, that was interesting.
Well, you never know when that message is going to hit somebody, and you never know who it's going to hit and when it's going to hit. And yeah, let's just hope that that message is out there and it'll be out there. And let's just hope that it hits the right person at the right time and off they go. And, since you brought it up, I feel kind of obligated to ask at this point. I mean, let's say the message hits somebody when the show gets released.
Yes.
Where do they go? What's your advice for that?
So whenever, like when it hits home, are you talking about with the addiction or?
Yeah. They get to a point and they're saying, you know what? I'm inspired and motivated by Ashley and what she shared. And I'm ready to make that change. Right.
Yeah.
It's my time to do that. And if she can do it, then I can do it too.
Yeah.
Where do they go?
So you can go to my Facebook, or I can I mean, I can leave my private number, but I don't know if I should do that.
No, don't do that now.
Okay.
No.
Scratch that.
Yeah.
No, I'm just
We'll mute that or we'll do something. No,
Yeah.
no private numbers.
No. Well, you can look me up on Facebook. It's under Kelsey and Ashley Banta, Banta. You can private message me and then I can approve it or not. If you reach out, if I don't know an answer, I know someone who does. And I do not mind helping anybody. I really hope you do. It would be anonymous, of course. In the meantime, if you know somebody that is using and they don't want to reach out, there is a phone number that you can call. It is called Never Use Alone. So go to neverusealone.com. And there is a phone number on there. And what that does is you can, if you are alone and you don't want to be alone because you think you might overdose, call this number. They will stay on the line with you. Make sure there's like a time period to where you don't overdose. They get a response from you. And then whenever you're okay, they hang up the phone. If not, they can call the ambulance. They're not going to send anybody to you. This is very anonymous, like I said. And it just keeps you safe. So you can at least do that.
And that website is neverusealone.com.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so we'll put a link to it in our show notes and make sure that exists. And we'll put it on our social media as well and try to spread that message. I can't think of a better way to end than that. Can you?
No, I'm glad you asked me that.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to say that.
It has to be in there.
Yeah.
A big part of the story.
Yes.
All right. So we'll end for tonight. We'll see you next time, right?
Oh, yeah, I'll be back.
Yeah, good. Wasn't that bad, was it?
No.
You won't be our first next time.
Right?
Yeah, I'll just be a repeat offender. But all right.
That's okay.
Yeah, that's right. We'll love it. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
All right, see you.